Welcome. Welcome to Augusta and a full house this morning. Just some housekeeping things. If you haven't figured it out yet, the password is Senator with a capital S. The number $1 is the password under the Wi-Fi Senator events. Food for breakfast is right out here if you haven't yet, and coffee is there as well. Water should be on the tables. If you need water or anything, come let me know and I will make sure, but they are going to be going around and checking throughout the meeting. Restrooms are out this hallway, right on the corner. Any questions on any housekeeping items before we get into the meeting? If anyone has any special needs, just let me know and I will make sure that you're accommodated. I want to introduce board members. My name is Colin Walsh. I'm from RSU 57, and those are the towns of Alfred, Limerick, Lyman, Newfield, Shapley, and Waterboro, and I'm president. Sherry Moody is vice president. If you can just stand so people know. Thank you. Don Pooler is secretary. Sherry is treasurer. Board members include, let me see who else I have here. Zach Harding from Yarmouth. Mark Bouchard. Sybil, where are you? And Kelly. And Cheryl Fournier from Sanford is not here today, I don't believe. And that is your board of directors. We usually start every meeting, and this morning's not going to be any different. I know it's a large crowd, but I think it's important that everyone get a sense of who folks are, where you're from. So if you could quickly just stand for those either in the front or the back, be a little bit louder so folks can hear you from the room, and just introduce yourself, where you're from, and what school district you represent. I'll start. No, I'm not. I saw the look on your face. It was like, please, please. No, because I picked on Adam earlier before the meeting because I said, why'd you pick the back table and can you throw a tomato from there and hit me? So I'm going to start with the Lewiston crew that's in the back table because they sat in the back just to avoid being the spotlight. So I'm going to put them in the spotlight. So Adam, you and your crew, take it off.
Good morning, Adam Hansen from Lewiston. Good morning, Craig Hall from Lewiston.
Good morning, Karen Robichaux, Lewiston. Chris Herbert, RSU 14, Wyndham Raymond. Jamie M. Glenn Herman. Shauna Stockford, Sherman. Jennifer Gagnon, MSD 15. Aaron Landry, RSU 9.
Next table up.
Old people, standing up thing. Kate Bolton and Scarborough.
Kate. I can totally relate, Kate, so I'm at that age.
Jason Sitar, Northeast Maine.
Carol Needham, Jackson. Donna Edmonds, School Union 122. Kate Sullivan, Erskine Academy. Johanna Stedman, Erskine Academy.
Pete Merrick, Siemens.
Jeff Yeager, Energy Management Consultants.
Tyron Corson, DOE.
Holly Floyd, RSU 12. Sean Bryant, still hard to stand up, RSU 12.
Carla Frank Josie, RSU 74.
Leah Callback, RSU 10.
Peter Wentz, RC 22, and Siemens.
Katie Gorley, RSU 25.
Crystal Flag, RSU 73. Jay Livermore, Livermore Falls.
Laura White, RSU 73, J. Livermore, Livermore Falls.
Gabrielle Cole, MSD 52, Turner, Virginia.
Peggy Mackenzie, set 55.
Baldwin, Orange, Porter, Washington.
Ian Chisto, Amy Scott Bay.
Harry Colley, MSD 17, Alison Hills.
Samantha Garnett Sines, RSU 4, Savannah Litchfield, yes.
Jason Ignato, RC 23.
Michelle Mahar, RSU 26, Orono.
Lynn Gray, RSU 26, Orno.
Samantha Randall, RSU 34, Old Town. Jennifer Pooler, MSD 58, Keyfield, Strong, Avon, Phillips.
Vicki Merrill, MDR 11, Oxford Hills area.
Shelley Cummings, Oxford Hills Technical School.
Sarah Pino, South Poland.
Lori Ryu, RSU 23.
Cynthia Potenza, RSU 23.
Carol Hines, MSAD 13, Bingham Moscow.
Corey Farnham, MSAD 13, Bingham Moscow.
Emily Kamiga, AOS 93, Central Lincoln County Schools.
Heidi Cisco, AOS 43, which oversees MSAD 31, MSAD 41, soon to not exist as of July 1st.
You have your own cheering squad on that
Good morning, I'm Sarah King with the Easton School Department.
Melinda Beers from RSU 24.
Success. Sharice Peach, MSAD 61, Bridgeton, Naples, and Casco. And I'm new to the school district.
one. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sherry Proctor, MSAD 61, Bridgeton, Casco, Naples.
Ashley Land, RSU 5.
Gail Trask, RSU 5. Sybil Brewer, Region 10, Sacramento High School.
Kelly Whitworth, RSU 5, Freeport, Durham, Powell.
Barb Benta, RSU 3, I'll be with that.
Christina Bishak, Anderson, May.
Dawn Blanchard, Brunswick School Department.
Studio Najardin, Augusta School Department.
Gina Daigle, MSAD 27, Fort Smith.
Thomas Maine. Darlene Clyde, covering Fort Kent and Augusta.
Laura Parker, MSAD 49, and Fairfield.
Cricket Van Tynen, MSAD 49 Scared.
Cassidy Neal, MSAD 54, Skowhegan.
Karen Smith, MSAD 54.
Mandy Fitzgerald, RSU 38, Manchester, Mount Vernon, Reedfield, and Wayne.
Eleanor Trilecki, Pure Flame of Auburn, Maine.
Heather Stanley, MSAD 11. Andrea Dish, MSAD 11, Gardner, West Gardner, Pittston, and Randolph. Dawn Buller, MSAD 6, Buxton, Standish, Flemington, Bryan,
I'm at Davenport, MSAD 6.
I might say.
Mary Ross, MSAD 6.
Aaron Collier, SAD 6.
All right, Cynthia LaGrange, Richmond School Department.
Chris Davis, MSAD 75.
Andrea Temple, MSAD 75.
Candy Aberze, St. George Municipal School.
Sherry Moody, Midco School of Technology, and I'm blown away by how far some of you people have driven to get here.
Brenda Richter from MSAD 51, Cumberland, North Yarmouth. Fran Prentice, also MSAD 51.
Chris Walker Spencer, Camden Rockport Schools, 5-pound CSD. I'm the new P dorm. This is my second month on the job.
Welcome.
Bridget Hopkins, North Haven Community School.
Mark Bouchard, RSU 39, representing Caribou and Stockholm.
Christy Levitt, RSU 9.
Zach Harding, Yarmouth School Department.
So, thank you all. Thank you all who have come from business offices as well. This day is really about a lot of payroll and HR, so welcome, and hopefully you'll learn a lot today, take a lot with you. And it's a day that's filled with some knowledge for you as business office staff as well as business managers. I want to know who traveled over 5 hours today, because Sherry stole my thunder.
On a normal drive or yesterday?
Yeah.
I would say yesterday's drive. Who's over 5? Anyone over 6? Thank you for being here. We do try to spread out throughout the state as much as possible. So thank you and welcome, and appreciate your travels. I don't know where you all stayed last night, but I did hear from Mark that it was a nasty drive yesterday. Couple of things. Joanne is not here today, obviously. Joanne did hurt herself about a month or so ago and had surgery. and is recovering nicely, but she was not able to travel and has not been able to actually be out of the house much, except for doctor appointments. So she was not able to be here. On that same note, I want to let you know that Joanne is retiring on June 30th. She's been with us for 2 years. She and her husband want to do a lot of things that this job does not allow her to do, and it's well deserved. We certainly value and appreciate her time. She knows I was going to talk about this today, so she's aware. So if you send her well wishes, she will know. But we are transitioning, and the board is transitioning a plan. If you have folks, or you yourself are thinking of retiring or want a part-time position as executive director, we are continuing it. It may look a little different. The board is meeting and continuing to have those discussions about what that looks like. But we will be putting out some advertisement fairly soon on that transition plan to the membership. So I did want to let you folks know that and communicate that with you this morning. I want to thank our vendors. Our vendors are very important, the vendors that are in the room, as well as our sponsors today. Our main sponsor today is MaineASBO Savings Bank and Barbara Durr. Barbara will have the vendor spotlight in just a few minutes and have 15 or 20 minutes to talk to you about what MaineASBO Savings Bank does and some of just what do you need to know as business managers and business office staff about banking and the financial world. So she'll share that. And I want to thank Harris Computing for having a vendor's table today. Wade. So please go see them, talk to them. I think they both brought some swag with them, if I'm not mistaken. So have some conversations either at breaks, at lunchtime, preferably not during the presentations. I want to talk just for a minute about a few items. The goals of the board were pretty clear from the membership over the past couple of years. I'm going to go over the key ones that were important to you as a membership and to us as a board, which was increasing our membership, increasing our district memberships for events like today, because it is not just about the business officials, it's also about the business office and the entire staff learning. It's about PD offerings and expanding those, which Joanne's done a great job with Lunch and Learns. Regional groups trying to form and get together and offer more PD that's more informal, but at a regional level. It's about increasing representation on committees. I will tell you that this organization 10 years ago did not have the representation it does today. Some of those committees you will never see or hear about. There are committees that exist behind the curtain, so to speak, at the DOE or at other levels, and also with ASBO International, that you may not be aware of, but are still existing. Those things that have financial decisions that we have traditionally in the past not been a part of, we are now pretty regularly a part of as an organization. That's important. Why? Because it's important to have representation. It's almost like going and saying, well, I'm going to put the budget together, but I don't get to actually have input into the budget. We're just going to let it go. Well, yeah, you have to put the budget together. It's really important that folks understand what's in those details so that when questions are asked. It's the same with the state and the legislative actions, and legislative committee, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I think that's really important because you may not see it, it may not be there, but for those of you who have bills that come in for leach fields or roofs or other things that you can't see, but they're still there, this is the same thing. So I'm proud of that, and I think we're really proud of what we've done. The last goal that I'll mention, there are others, but the last most important one is fiscal sustainability. We cannot do what we do without dues. We can't do it without all of you, and we can't accomplish those goals without money. That's the reality. And the reality is, I think, for the amount of dollars that are in those dues, it's pretty good value for the dollar. If you look at other organizations that you pay dues for, within your school districts and the amount of money that is spent on dues versus MaineASBO, I'd like to think that hopefully you feel you're getting your value for the dollar. If you aren't, let Joanne and I know, let the board know. Please, when you say that, make sure you tell us why you feel you're not getting that value. Similarly, if you are getting that value, please let us know as well. It's your organization, it's not ours. We're just here as representatives. We want to do what you feel is most important for this organization to provide the service that you expect. There are some organizations that charge dues and then also charge for events like today, on top of that. You're paying one fee, a fixed fee for the entire year. Yeah, it's in the newsletter. Yes, the board did decide to increase fees for next year. We have no choice. If we really want an executive director part-time, we really want to accomplish what we need to, there is a fiscal dollar amount. If you do not want to pay for every single PD, if you do, let us know. We're happy to change that formula and talk about it. But I think it's really important that you understand that that's an all-inclusive fee for 12 months. Any questions on any of those items? I'm happy to talk about and answer. You know I'll talk forever. I'm not the shy one. I could see the faces when I said, can you please stand up and say your name? I just looked around the room from up here. It was interesting. Dave Holden Award. Dave Holden is an award that goes out annually to someone in our field as a business official who has gone above and beyond and excels in their profession. It's given annually by you folks. Here's the catch. We can't give it if you don't nominate people. That's the reality. So please don't be shy. Figure out who it is in your region, your area, that you feel has gone above and beyond in doing their job and promoting our profession. Application deadline is March 21st. Do not wait till March 20th. Because you know how many applications or recommendations Joanne has right now? Who can guess how many? Zero. Okay? This is a really important award. I received it. Others in this room have received it. It hangs in my office wall. It's important. It is a nice recognition for someone to say, thank you, you did a great job. And people in our profession deserve to hear that more than we do. So please don't be shy. Nominate someone that you feel has gone above and beyond. Tri-State, Kelly's going to talk about, so I'm not going to talk about that. See, that's delegation. The board loves me for that, by the way. Lunch and Learns, March 19th, next Lunch and Learn is school safety. Are those going well? Do people like the Lunch and Learns? Yes or no? Yes? No? How about I have never attended a Lunch and Learn? Don't be shy. There's no shame in that. Try one. Try one. Folks said, hey, we can't travel all the time. Can you provide some other PD that's not day long, that's little snippets? I don't have a whole day to give you. And provide us topics that you want to hear about in those Lunch and Learns. I think Joanne's done a great job with it. I think she has done a tremendous job lining folks up to do those Lunch and Learns. Regional groups I talked about. Regional groups, I'm going to say this. I think if regional groups got together, there'd be a huge benefit to that. I understand time is tight. We are not dictating it, but we're trying to promote networking within your local region. In my area, we do it as part of a service center. We don't do it necessarily as part of MaineASBO. In fact, business managers in our service center area, there's 10 of us, we're getting together on Wednesday. We have a regular meeting every other month. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I think Jason's hosting, so I'll leave it with him. But no. But seriously, it's an opportunity. Figure out what you need in your region. Those are also important because I think it helps network for one, share frustrations, joys, anxieties together in a small group. But then bring those to us too. What is it that ASBO can do? And maybe it's something we haven't thought of or other areas haven't thought of that we can do to help the entire state. Software user groups are the same. Infinite Visions is Jamie Youngblood. APTA is Sherry Moody. Reach out to them. Their email addresses are, I believe, in the newsletter. Reach out to them if you're struggling or want to be part of those groups. They've done the same thing. They've said, hey, I'm going to take the lead and I'm going to form something that folks can just kind of get together and talk about and share. Legislative update we'll talk about in a minute. DOE, Federal Fiscal Office Hours, upcoming are May 1st, July 24th, and October 23rd, so you can kind of guess they're about quarterly. Those are important. I think there's good learning there. We have asked the DOE over the past several years, hey, can you do more connection with business managers? The Federal Fiscal Office Hours, that's what they've done. DOE Finance is meeting, I believe, March 18th. If someone from DOE is here and that's wrong, let me know, but same thing for them. They're trying to do outreach. They're trying to connect with all of us on what we need and what they need and share those experiences. School facilities, this is another one of those that the governor's office came to me and said, we need a representative from ASBO on the school construction committee. And Hollis Cobb is our representative. Hollis is business manager in Gorham. Hollis volunteered her time and efforts to serve on that committee. That would not have happened 10 years ago. And that's important. It's important for that committee to hear from a business manager and finance perspective what our challenges are and what the opportunities are and have a voice at the table. School Safety Center is another one. We've really connected with them a lot more, so that's an important group. Any other items that anyone has before I start getting into the more formal part of the meeting or wants to bring forward to the membership? You guys are quiet, you want more food, you want to hear from me in person. That's my report. Next on the agenda is review and approve the minutes of the November 8th meeting. If someone can make a motion and state your name so that Dawn has it in the record. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved, Kelly Woodward.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second. Katie Cisco.
So there's a motion and a second on the minutes. Is there any discussion about the minutes from November 8th? All in favor? All opposed? That's unanimous. Next is the treasurer's report. Treasurer's report was handed out with the agenda and emailed out. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Kelly Beecham. Better luck next time, Sybil. I don't know. You know. Is there any discussion on the treasurer's report? Before we vote, the only thing I will say is, as I said about the dues, we're trying to make sure that there's enough money that we can fill that position, make sure the position stays filled. But it is important for folks to pay dues and to really, if you value things like today, consider a district membership. Any other discussion on the treasurer's report? All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Next is committee reports. Zach and Sherry will do legislative. I don't know who's going first.
Sherry,
I think I'm starting.
He said you.
Good morning. Zach and I have been listening in on some of the legislative workshops and trying to track some of the bills, and I'm sure some of you have been listening in as well. I'm just going to mention a few because obviously we're still at the very beginning of the session, we're mostly listening to workshops. Nothing really has taken place as far as actual voting on these, correct?
Correct, they're in committee workshops right now, so it's not the full legislature, they're in committees.
Okay. So the first bill that I just wanted to mention is LD 34, which they just had a workshop on, public hearing on this past Wednesday. And it's an act to increase the minimum salary for teachers. Starting in FY 26-27, it would go to $45,000 and then up to $52,500 by 29-30, so FY 30. State funding in support of only 1 year, 26-27. And then a COLA adjustment is also legislated as part of this. As you know, this would probably be a fairly large impact on a lot of budgets. Maybe not necessarily all schools, but certainly some schools would be severely impacted. LD 71, an act regarding special ed funding. This actually changes the special ed in the EPS model from 50 to 55%, starting in 25-26. This would certainly have a positive impact for minimum special ed adjustment receiving schools. So I'm assuming the state obviously would cover this fiscal impact. Another one of note that I was interested to see came that would amend the Freedom of Access Act to require a specific time frame for agencies to comply with a request for public records. Right now, the act just says a reasonable amount of time, and it would change it to 30 days. So that could have an impact on a lot of us. Another one that I thought was interesting, I'm not sure that it's doable, was an act to improve safety in public schools by requiring silent electronic notification systems in classrooms. This would be a system of notification that would dial 911 automatically from a classroom. So, and of course, there would be obviously a large fiscal impact to most schools to do something like that.
Can I jump in on that one? Because the interesting note in that one is also includes parents, which is weird. Like, that's not the way that should work.
Yeah, that would create pandemonium if a parent got a 911 call from a classroom. Yeah, I just can't imagine that would be
helpful.
Pass. At least not in this version. Another interesting LD is 396, which would mandate high school's start time no earlier than 8:30 in the morning. I don't know. I know some schools are already doing it, and some schools it would be very problematic. 406, to repeal the PFML law and reimburse taxpayers and employers for the PFML deduction. I don't know where this one is going. Probably nowhere. Fingers crossed, but doubtful. And the last one I wanted to mention is 512, which impacts smaller schools. It would allow educational opportunities for secondary students, high school students, with less than 200 students enrolled in the high school to enroll in another SAU if that other SAU allows it. So that would allow students to basically hop high schools. So that's all I've got.
I just have a couple side notes. So one way to get this information is to sign up for the listserv. So the legislature, if you go to list.legislature.maine.gov, you can just put your email address in and confirm it in an email, and you can get the next week's meeting schedule. Comes out usually Thursday or Friday. And what I do is while I'm working, I just kind of put it off to the side and I listen to it. Next week's, there's public hearing on ed bills, which includes that 34. That's on Monday at 10 a.m. Sorry, that's not 34. That's some different ed bills. Have a public hearing on the 3rd. And on Wednesday is a work session, which includes bill number 34, the teacher salary, and also the special ed funding bill are gonna be in a work session. And you click on the links on the legislature page and it'll put you to those. You already stole my minimum teacher salary part. Net energy billing, there's 3 bills that all basically say the same thing. We want to get rid of net energy billing. There was a mixed bag of people presenting. Some people wanted to get rid of it, some people wanted to keep it, and there was a mix of people that say we could probably change it and improve it. I know in Yarmouth, we get about 120,000 in credits a year. That's net after we pay our solar farm and we get the credits off of the bills. Having worked in York, I know they get about 40,000. So it could have a significant impact if it's scrapped for any of your towns or municipalities that have entered those agreements with the understanding that that's going to last for 20 years. That was it. That was all I had on my notes.
Can you talk about how they can help you folks to join and become part of your legislative committee?
Yeah, just email us, say you want to be a part, and you can join. It's not a big application process. We'll assume if you're here, you can do the required stuff.
Can you share that website one more time?
It's lists.legislature.maine.gov, and you can also ask just the all-encompassing Google, like how do I get the Maine listservs, and it'll give you the same answer. And so I've signed up for education and labor. Those are 2 big ones, but there's other ones that you may or may not, depending on your locale, have more impact on your school systems.
Yeah, I mean, we should have a better, at our April meeting, we should have a better sense of where some of these bills are going at that point, and we'll have more information.
And the thing to do is get your, if you are going to send a letter either to your representative or to the committee, it's to do it before the public hearing, and that will get posted. Like you can go on and see for LD 34, there's like 59 items, and you can go on if you're that excited you to read them all. But you can at least get it there, even if you can't make it, right? You can send something along that just voices your concerns, either pro, for, or neither. Just say these are the pros and cons of, so at least it puts the consideration in the minds of the people in the legislature. I thought during the committees they were asking some questions and did have some back and forth with some folks about how things would work, so it's an iterative process as they go along, so I would say be a part of it.
Thank you. Be a part of it, I think, is the key. Does anyone remember unpaid leave? Does anyone remember PFML? It's almost like trying to close the barn door after all the cattle are out of the barn and saying, oh, now what do we do? And you just heard it. Well, one is to repeal PFML for schools. The likelihood of that is probably pretty low right now. So being involved, does it matter? Yes, it does matter. If you send something to a legislator or call a legislator, it matters. Because they don't hear too often from business officials. And that's kind of also a message, right? Well, if we don't hear from you, then we assume you guys are okay with it. We as an organization do not have the ability to conduct legislation. That's in violation of our 501c3 as a nonprofit. That does not prevent you folks, all of us, from being part of that individually. We can share the information with you. That is perfectly fine, and we do. But I think it's important to be engaged. Professional development, there was not a lot that Joanne had to say from PD. Is there someone from PD committee here? I'm not sure there is. You want to talk?
Not really.
No? Mark says no. That is one that we've really tried. Yeah?
I will share.
Okay.
We have not met for a couple of months. We have a couple of you all are in the process for doing the certification, but other than that, we have not met. But we are actively things, but I think just everyone's time is very limited right now, and with Joanne being a little,
Laid up.
busy with herself, it has been difficult for us to connect.
Thank you. If that is important, the board is trying to evaluate what we're going to do with that moving forward. This has been a struggle for years. That committee has done a good job despite the challenges. But in reality, it's going to probably be an outsourced item for those who really want to do it. And the board's willing to talk about that, but we're trying to figure out the cost and all the other elements to do that. It's becoming more and more difficult for us to do that internally. It really is. Kelly, Tri-State.
Okay, so it's my turn to plug again. I did this at the last meeting. Tri-State ASBO. It is a group of business officials from Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And annually we hold a conference and we rotate states each year. This year it's at the Mountain View Grand in Whitefield, New Hampshire. It's kind of a self-contained type event this year, and the reason I say that is because the Mountain View Grand is really remote for the most part, and so there's basically one hotel that everybody stays in, and we bring entertainment into the hotel because of its location. What Tri-State is, it's 2.5 days of professional development, networking, and just rejuvenation in some cases. And I really want to put a plug in for registrations. Currently we have about 50 school business officials registered from the 3 states. We opened up registration February 20th. We have 13 from Maine right now. We'd love to have more from Maine. It is on May 21 through 23. I know that's a little challenging for some budget cycles, but if you can get away, it's a wonderful event. And the one thing I will, as an insider plug for you, is because it is a self-contained venue, we have delayed vendor hotel room reservations for 2 weeks from attendee registrations. That expires on March 5th. So if you are looking to go and actually stay at the Mountain View Grand and not have to try and find another hotel somewhere else, please get your registration in and book your hotel room before March 5th. It gets a little challenging once we open it up to vendors, to be honest. The other thing I will mention is that we currently have 2 vacant positions on the Tri-State ASBO board for Maine representation. We are looking for people to join us. Of course, much like this organization, Tri-State is made up of school business officials who meet via Zoom throughout the year to create this professional development opportunity for all of us, to set up speakers, vendors, pick venues, all of that kind of thing. And we really need 2 more Maine members. So if you're interested, if you could either contact any of the board members or Joanne herself, we would love to have you join. Like I said, most of the meetings are via Zoom. And then there's a few on-site meetings if you're able to attend. If not, they offer a Zoom option. The other thing I will mention is that there are scholarships available. There are 2 this year. It's for MaineASBO members who have current membership dues paid. For first-time attendees to the Tri-State Conference, we're offering 2 $500 scholarships, which the registration fee for the conference, which includes meals and all professional development opportunities, is $525. The hotel is on top of that, just so you know. But if you're a first-time attendee looking to go and you want to potentially win one of these 2 scholarships, you need to send a letter of interest to MaineASBO@gmail.com by March 28th. The winners will be selected at random and announced at our April 4th meeting at the Keeley's Banquet Center in Portland. So again, it's really a wonderful opportunity. I will be honest, it took me almost 5 years to go to a Tri-State event, and I've been to one every year since. So it is very, I find it, like I said at the beginning, very rejuvenating. I do a lot of networking. I've met a lot of amazing people. And in addition, we get some professional development, and we get to meet some wonderful vendors too. There is a vendor show as part of that. So, any questions?
Thank you, Kelly. As far as Tri-State, for those of you who attend regularly, I push it every single meeting. And I push it because I really think it's that important. I think if you go to one, you will have a hard time not continuing to go, as Kelly said. I think they're really valuable. I think what you learn, not necessarily just in the classroom, but all of the networking you do outside of the classroom, you will build friendships that will continue. And they'll be from people who might not necessarily be from Maine. So I think that's a really important event. It is our 33rd annual, and I would dare say it's run almost as close to any national conference I've ever been to. It is an extremely well organized and structured event with great opportunities inside and outside of learning. So, any questions on anything or any comments for this group before we close the business part of the meeting? You're a quiet group today. Are you all budgeted out and just want to be out of the office for the night? Yes, I agree. Yes?
Colin, we have a few attendees over here waiting in the wings. I don't know if they're looking for a seat perhaps at the table. If anyone has a... Oh, you're presenting. Good observation though, right?
Thank you for looking out for them though.
Yes, of course.
Any other items or anything anyone wants to present or talk and lay out for the board to consider? If not, this is not your only opportunity. There's this thing called email that I hear about now. Email Joanne, I mean in all seriousness. I am not just giving lip service when I say it's your organization. It truly is. We're just here trying to help. So make sure you're getting what you need out of these meetings and out of MaineASBO. I know I ran over, so it's going to be a little bit behind the 8 ball. Barbara Durr is from Machias Savings Bank. She and Machias Savings Bank are our vendor sponsor today, so let's welcome Barbara.
I promise I won't talk too fast. I'm gonna try not to. There's a big crowd, a lot of people. All right. Thank you. So thank you very much. I'm going to put this up here. Leave it up there. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here this morning. As Colin said, my name is Barbara Durr. I'm with Machias Savings. I'm their government banking relationship manager. In fact, I've worked with a number of folks here. And so what I'm going to talk about is the value of having a relationship manager, a banking relationship manager as part of your team, and going through the process of how you can benefit from that. So when I started this presentation, I went onto the MaineASBO website and I looked at the mission. And so in bold, those are all your responsibilities. So I'm not going to read them because you know them, you live them, but that's something. So well done you. But so what I wanted to share is that you folks are experts in what you do. But your banker is an expert in banking. And so go ahead and lean on your banker to make the most of your professional world and for your district. So I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that you guys have a full plate. So really what we want to do is assist you in the best way we can. And so we'll want to ask for 60 minutes of your time to do an account review, to talk about rates, present new products and services. Promise, we're not trying to just sell you something for the sake of selling you something. We want to share information. Alphabet soup, I'll go into a little more detail about that. Bankers love alphabet soup. And then, of course, fraud prevention. And then we also want to know, how often do you want to meet with us? That's an important part because we want to be on that schedule for you that best suits your needs. So a couple things we'll want to talk about. We want to talk about the balances. What kind of accounts you have. Where are the balances? Credit card balances, CDs, loan balances. We want to talk about collateralization. That's important, of course. Are there any outstanding loans? Do you need any loans? Or are you going? Is it in your budget to borrow for the next year? Are CDs a good fit for you? And what the maturity dates are? How liquid do they need to be? And this is important. What's everybody's role in your office? Because if you have an online banking platform, you've got folks that are in different roles, segregation of duties, that sort of thing. And we already know you guys are super busy. We want to make sure that we capture all of the roles so that we can guide you and let you know what type of access your people have to the online banking. Maybe someone's moved out of the payroll department and shouldn't be initiating an ACH, or wires, or maybe someone should have view only. So that's an important piece. And we're also going to share who are the current signers. Sometimes, and this happens more than you would imagine, Joe left 6 months ago, and now it's, Marie. So it's that catching up and making sure we're all on the same page with our relationship review. And then, this is another important point. If someone in your office is having trouble with the banking, let your relationship manager know. This should not be hard and should not be painful. Maybe we can set up a training. Maybe we can explain what's going on and why we're doing something. So this is how I run my account reviews. But now the other thing is, you may say, well, I don't want to talk about that, Dur. I want to talk about something else. Make that person part of your team. So it really should be fluid. Rates. Everybody wants to talk about rates. Where are rates going? What are rates doing? Well, the Fed dictates the rates. Open market committee, 8 times a year. And then we go from there. So the Fed met in January, no change. Meeting again in March, so we'll see. Right now, the Fed funds rate is 4.33, so we'll see. And economic conditions can be affected by inflation, jobs. I mean, we're all reading the same headlines, so we'll see what happens with the rates. And we'll just see what happens. There's really nothing else to talk about other than what the Fed is going to be doing. I did want to bring up interest rate versus earnings credit rate. There are some relationships that have a compensating balance, which is it doesn't earn an interest credit, but rather earns an earnings credit. That earnings credit can be used to offset the cost of services that are used by the district. So I did want to make sure that differentiation was there. Does anybody have any, that's the other thing. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand, shout it out, let me know. Okay. Okay. Are you just trying to sell me something? No. We're not just trying to sell you something. So anytime there's new technology, that's going to bring about new products. So our role is to share all of the products that we have available. My goal is always to create efficiencies, offer opportunities to create efficiencies. That's either efficiencies in time or money. And so I will present what I've got new, what I see coming down the pike. You don't have to buy what I'm selling, that's for certain. But I do want, it's my job to share that data with you. So I did want to make sure that that was clear. And then, but I will say this with regard to services. There's some bankers in the room. There's not a banker around that is going to poo-poo fraud prevention services. We want you to employ every fraud prevention service that's available to you, because the fraudsters take it very seriously. We've encountered fraud. In a couple slides we'll talk about different types of fraud, but those are really important. Bankers have to stay one step ahead of the fraudsters to protect your taxpayer dollars that you are taking care of. So we do put the hard sell on that one. And we'll make it as easy as possible to implement. That's the other important piece. Okay, this is the alphabet soup. And sometimes we don't even know what they are. So we have to look them up. So ACH, EFT, ECR, PP, ICS, LOC, and of course EDM. So ACH, you guys are all familiar with that, automated clearinghouse, that's direct deposit. EFT, that's an electronic funds transfer. ECR, we talked about that, that's an earnings credit rate. That is what you get for an allowance to offset costs. PP, positive pay, so that's check positive pay, ACH positive pay. Hopefully everybody's using both of those services. ICS, so it's an insured cash sweep. That's a type of collateralization. LOC, some people call it line of credit, which is a credit facility that you borrow from, pay back, borrow from, pay back. It's also considered a letter of credit, which is another form of collateralization, which is a performance guarantee. And then EDM, electronic dance music. Everybody needs to know that. Not that I'm a gal of a certain age that doesn't listen to it, but thought I'd put it in there. Any questions about our alphabet soup? All right. So I do want to talk about preventing fraud, because it's that important. And if anybody wants to share some fraudulent attempts that you've encountered, please feel free, because we can all learn from that as well. So check positive pay. In the event that you don't know what that is, I'll explain it. You, the business manager, would upload a valid paycheck file to your bank. Then, as checks attempt to clear the district's account, they will be scrubbed up against that file that you sent us. If something is amiss, check date, check number, amount, or payee, if one of those things don't match, you're going to get an exception. And then you have a certain time during the day to approve it. So, and if you inadvertently miss submitting a file, you would get a lot of exceptions, and you'll know that you'll have to upload the file. So that is check positive pay. ACH positive pay is similar in that you give us a list, we call them filters or rules, of valid vendors that can pull money from the district's account. So the regular players are 941, EFTPS, Maine State, and Maine PERS. So we would have those filters and whatever, what other vendors you have. And then if a vendor attempts to pull funds from your account, you would get an alert, just like you would check positive pay. So we'll use Pitney Bowes for an example. Maybe on a quarterly basis, they pull money. You would get an alert. You have an opportunity to pay, reject, or pay and add a filter. So that secures your funds from an ACH, an unauthorized ACH received debit. Because as banks, if we get an ACH file, we process it. So having those filters or rules in place is really important. Then the other thing, reconcilement. That's being on top of your reconcilements on a timely basis is a great fraud mitigation. Just being aware of what's going on. Also looking at your accounts every day. I mean, it's not on there, but looking at your accounts every day. One of the things that we see a lot of, and you probably have witnessed it and probably hopefully not felt it, but it's out there, is business email compromise. And that looks like one of your employees may have their email hacked. That employee will send an email to your HR and say, hey, I changed banks, I'm now at Green Dot Bank, and send my payroll there. And it's not verified. And sure enough, Thursday comes around, payday, that money's at Green Dot Bank and not at your employee's bank. So how do you mitigate that? Verify, verify, verify. ACH positive pay and check positive pay will not stop business email compromise. That's something that you will have to do with your team and make sure you're training them to don't click on you're getting a Walmart gift card. No one's sending you a UPS just for the heck of it. DHL is not going to send you a package. But having a policy in place that if someone opts to change their payroll data through the through the HR department, having it in writing, or let's say you get a vendor that says, oh, I don't want checks anymore, I want ACH. Pick up the phone and call from a trusted phone number. And I'll tell you why why I said that, because there's a new wrinkle. And verify with your vendor's AR department. Finance department. Yeah, they would be receiving. So, and the reason why I say that, I saw one business email compromise, and it was just last fall. And it was a vendor that was actually grooming the finance person, the finance department. They went so far as to change the signature block and the phone number by one digit. So the person called the phone number on the signature line of the fraudulent email and thought they were verifying. And so it was a $100,000 loss. And if you do get losses, your insurance may not cover the whole nut, which that's the reality. So they ended up having a net $50,000 loss. I witnessed another one. I'm going to say it was during the pandemic. It was a $500,000 ACH. A vendor changed from check to ACH, like a Green Dot Bank. It took about 5 months to get all but $1,000 back. So banks will work together to claw funds back and stop this fraud, but there's some times where the ship has sailed. The cows got out of the barn. There's some times where it's gone. So we're just I feel like we beat the drum, but we beat the drum for a really good reason. We don't want to see any fraud. And then, so I would also suggest, And your banker can help you with handouts on how to mitigate fraud. And so this we recommend you share with your teams during your staff meetings. Or, give a test for fraudulent emails. Is anybody gonna get super clicky and click on those boxes? So, any questions about fraud or how it's going or, all right?
Barb, I will tell you, they're very tricky.
They are?
Because we had that situation where they wanted to change their account, but the email that came from an employee, our employee's name was Margaret, she went by Peg, and the email came from Peg. But obviously luckily we had a policy that we're either staring at your eyeballs or we're talking to you on the phone before we make any changes, but that perplexed us how they knew that she was Peg.
Right.
Not Margaret.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Mark. The fraudsters take their job very seriously. Now, I will say this. You can hover your cursor over an email address, and that will kind of give you a clue, but sometimes there's only one letter missing. And so if you're speed reading, you're not going to see it, but going through that process and verifying is really important.
Barbara?
Yes? Hello, Adam.
Something that happened to us, because it sort of goes a step beyond check email. Our business office received an email from a known vendor, someone we pay every month, asking that they change their ACH information. It was the real email. In fact, it was part of a string of emails. We would have had no reason to suspect it was a fake email. They had either hacked it or spoofed it. I don't know what they did, but it was the actual email address. And our business office made the mistake of calling the phone number in the email to confirm.
Right.
And we did lose the money. Fortunately, we got it back through insurance.
Did you get all of them back?
Yeah, but as you said, that's not always the case.
Right.
So you can't even trust that the email is real if it's from the real email.
Right.
I just wanted to share that. And as Barbara said, you've got to go to that external known phone number.
Right.
Or whatever and talk to a real person.
Right.
So you can't even trust the real email.
And so that example of that $500,000 ACH was the same thing. It was a vendor's email that was hacked, and then it came into the city, and yeah. So it's wildly disruptive. So just work with your teams and stay vigilant. And so this is when a little paranoia is a good thing to have. All right. And that is it. So I really appreciate your time. Of course, if you have any questions, how did I do on time, Colin?
You're good.
All right. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb. We're going to have Maine Purse come in next. So for Maine Purse is here. They're going to plug right into that, so you're fine. Alex Rand is a retirement service business leader. Katie Reed is employer reporting requirements. And Sherry Vandrell is CFO for Maine Purse. They're going to talk about Maine Purse, but they're also going to leave time for questions for you folks. So please, as they go through, make sure that you think of questions and items that you have, either as a business manager or as business office staff. So you have a great opportunity today to hear what they have to say, but also get your questions answered at the same time. They are presenting until noontime. We will take a break when it's convenient for them in their presentation to allow you an opportunity to have a stretch for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we will wrap up somewhere around noontime or so before the afternoon session. So without further ado, thank you. Does someone have a Dell dongle?
I
Can I borrow it?
Yeah, she has a Dell. How did she just, will that work?
No.
No.
Oh, they don't have a Dell.
Oh, I don't know. They do have a Dell. You have a Dell. And you just.
She's got an HDMI port and I
Oh.
don't. Mine goes through it. Let me see. Go ahead and start, and I will see if I can find some way to convert.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Alex, do you have one second? So while we wait for the technology, this presentation we have sent ahead to Colin
You're gonna need that right up to your mouth.
and to Joanne so that they can distribute it to you after the meeting today. So you will have this as a handout. I'd like to introduce Alex Ryan. Alex is a business unit leader in retirement services. He focuses on the teacher plan. So he's going to talk a little bit about eligibility issues.
All right, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Don't worry, I won't karaoke or anything, even though I got the microphone. So I'm going to jump right into some eligibility for the teacher plan at MaineFirst. Apologize that the slide's not up to actually show what I'm talking about, but I'll do my best. And again, we will send you a copy of the slideshow. First thing I want to talk about is there were some questions that were posed to us about eligibility issues. When is a teacher, not a teacher, basis, excuse me, subs, coaches, all of those sort of things. All right, there we go. So what I want to say about membership is it's not based on a list of positions. We don't have a list of positions that we go through and go, yep, that one's eligible, and it falls under the teacher plan. What we do is each position that comes through, we look to see if it meets the statutory definition of a teacher. The statutory definition is, does the DOE require certification? And that person also holds that certification. And if they don't meet that criteria, the next criteria we look at is the principal function of that position introducing new learning to students. Again, you don't have to jot that down or memorize, it'll be on the slideshow that comes to you. The reason I mention that is we get oftentimes people saying, well, this school has a computer technician that is under the teacher plan. This one has the same title, but it's not covered. Why? As you can imagine, sometimes job duties differ. Even though it's called the same thing, the job duties are different. So a computer technician at one school might simply be a computer technician that's running cables, kind of background, helping with security risks, security threats. At another school, might have the exact same job title, but that position is actually teaching a computer course. Principal function is introducing new learning to students. So that's why sometimes people, again, from school to school it can vary, but that's kind of how we look at teacher positions in general. The next thing I want to cover is coaches in adult ed. That's another one that we get quite a bit. When we look at coaches specifically, we look to see whether they have a current or prior basis with MainePERS. What that means is they have contributions on file under either the teacher or state plan at MainePERS. That's what we refer to as basis. We definitely understand that if somebody has a prior basis, not currently working as a teacher, sometimes it's a struggle to find that information. We're here to help you. Anytime you have somebody that's coming on, they're not currently working in a teacher position, they're like, I'm not sure, maybe I had contributions at one time. You can always send us the name and date of birth to MainePERS or give us a call, and we can let you know whether that person has basis, and then they'd have mandatory membership under the teacher plan. Okay, so that's coaches. Adult education, there we go, is the other one. Adult education first looks at the first part of the definition of teacher. Does the DOE require certification for that class? As you know, with adult education, there can be many different varying things that are taught. Some of those are very classroom specific. Some of those could be teaching classes like basket weaving or dancing lessons and things of that sort. So usually the DOE will require certification for like a 4-credit course, something that's really applicable that way. Again, if you're ever unsure, checking with the DOE is always a good step for that. The other thing we look at for teaching positions in adult ed is whether they have, same as coaches, our current or prior basis. So we also look at that for adult ed. So again, if they have that current or prior basis, mandatory membership under the teacher plan for teaching positions under adult ed. We realize adult ed could have other positions, more administrative in nature. Yay, we got slideshow. All right, now you guys get to actually see what I've been rambling on about here. There we go. So again, you'll get a copy of this. As you can see, I went over the section right here is talking about that mandatory membership for the teacher position. I've just covered coaches, covered adult ed. Substitutes is the other one that has a unique stance to it. It's a one-time optional election in whether they want to contribute to Maine PERS or not. There's very key words in that. It's one time, and it's an optional election, and it's for all employment with that employer going forward. So if you have a person that decides to come sub, they decide they did not want to contribute to Maine PERS, so they say, nope, I decline membership, I don't want to do that. The biggest thing to emphasize to them is that's for all substituting with that employer going forward. So if they substitute for a year or two, take a 10-year break and come back, that same optional election still applies for that employer going forward. So that's another one that can kind of stumble, and it's a lot of things to think about. Do you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
Our district offers PLD.
Mm-hmm.
So in that instance, if it's like an EdTech 1, they deny it, or they don't want to enroll, but then we go back and ask them for the next 5 years, right?
Yep, so great question she brought up. For those school districts that have the PLD participating local district plan, that optional election applies for all optional membership with that employer, whether it's PLD or the teacher plan. So that's that same thing. If they were a sub, they stopped, waited 10 years, came back in a PLD position, that was optional membership. That same election that they had elected for the substitute position is again for all optional elections with that employer. If you go to it, go ahead.
So do we ask that original sub for the next, next 5 years if they still?
It's one time, so that election, once they make that election to join or not join, that's their election going forward. They don't get to re-choose or change that selection. It's for all going forward. Question?
Can I just clarify, so if they opt out at my employer, or me, at my school,
Yep.
and then they move to the next district, they can opt in over there? Yes.
That is correct.
Oh.
That is correct. So her question, in case, just so everybody could hear it, is what if they changed employers or school districts, if you will? It is for each school district, so they have that election. So if they are teaching at, or excuse me, substituting at one school district, then they move to another school district as a substitute, they get that election again for that employer. So it's per employer that they get to make that election. There is some weight to it. We always say we do have some good videos on our website that talk about the optional elections. Kind of tells the member a little bit more about what that is, what it means, and everything for them. And again, for it's all elections going forward. So if you ever have questions or anything, definitely feel free to reach out to us. But again, our website, we're trying to revamp it with some good videos and stuff that help explain that a little bit for those members on those elections. Question?
In case I missed it, what if they go from substitute, they option out, but then the next year we offer them a full-time position?
Yep, it's only for substituting or optional election positions. So yeah, if they go to a teacher at Tech 2, at Tech 3, anything like that, those are mandatory memberships, so it would not affect that. Great question though. Yes?
So at the beginning of every sports season, we check with Maine PERS for our coaches who obviously have a basis for membership.
Yes.
So if we check with you on September 1st, and you tell us that somebody doesn't have a basis for membership, and then on October 1st, somebody becomes an EdTech 2 someplace else.
Yes.
What is our, and we won't check again for that sub until the next sporting season, what is our liability?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say much as liability. We try to have members be, and expressing to them to be open about if they do have other employment. They don't need to get into the full details other than, yeah, I'm doing substituting or I'm working at this other school district, because that establishes that basis, like you say. So usually trying to get your employees to be a little transparent if they do pick up those roles, because it can affect whether they're contributing or not under the coaching position. And usually something we can always get adjusted or corrected, of course, after the fact, if they did pick that up. But we really look at the line, like if they started coaching and were paid the stipend for coaching in September, but they didn't start working at this other employer until October or after, it would only be after that date. It doesn't go back to the beginning of the school year.
So the problem with staff, I have full-time teachers who've been in Maine PERS for years who probably don't even know that they're in Maine PERS.
It's
I
true.
mean, it's very hard
Yep.
for those people to understand, far less somebody who's just become an ed tech someplace else to notify us that they're now eligible for Maine PERS through their coaching stipend.
Yeah, no, we definitely understand. You know, what we're trying to definitely do our best with member education and getting that out there on it. And it's more for just those people that, again, are working as coaches and don't have that established basis. That's where really it comes down to. You know, we definitely try to do our best to keep providing them that information, letting them know, like, hey, once you do establish that basis, be transparent, let us know, let your employer know, so we can start flipping that to do the contributions. But yeah, I definitely understand it's humans. We make human error and stuff on it, and definitely trying to do our best for that transparency and make sure it goes through. Yes?
I just have a clarification on coaches.
Yes.
I had an employee who was an ed tech with us, an ed tech 3, who had to be in Maine PERS for
Yep.
a few years.
Yep.
But he also coached so that was reported. But then he stopped ed teching. He's like, I don't want to do this school thing, and he's doing a job completely different,
Yep.
not Maine PERS, but he's still coaching with us. And
So-
he doesn't want to
Yeah,
join Maine PERS.
I want to throw a little bit more into that. So with that, it's current or prior basis, so if he has that prior basis. However, one thing to think about, to add another wrinkle to this, I know you guys are like, there's so many things to think about, but to add one more wrinkle, if they took a refund of their prior time, that kind of wipes out that basis. They no longer have basis with Maine PERS any longer. So if he was an Ed Tech 2, he got done and decided, and he took a refund of that time, that wipes out that basis.
He didn't, and that's what
Yep.
he's fighting with me, because I'm making him be a Maine PERS, because he does have that prior basis.
Yep, it's
But
about
he
that
doesn't want to,
basis.
but he didn't take the refund, so he has to be in it, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. He would be required to be in it because of that basis and stuff. That would be the only way to opt out essentially, is again, if you took a refund, that removes it. Way in the back.
We have a PLD, so I want to make sure I understand this part.
Sure.
If we hire someone as a teacher sub, they opt out. 5 years later, they get a job as a custodian. Are they bound, is their PLD membership bound by the decision they made 5 years earlier as a sub? Are they prohibited from joining PLD?
So PLD is not my strong suit. I'll be open with that. I'm primarily in the teacher world, but it's based on the position in PLD and whether it's an optional membership with that position for it. So I can't speak to.
So in this scenario, it is an optional membership?
It is an optional, yes. Yep, so the optional membership carries over, so it would be the same for that person. If they had opted out, they would not be be covered under the PLD plan if that optional membership would go forward.
And vice versa, if they opted in as a teacher sub, they have to be
Correct,
as a custodian.
exactly, vice versa. Yep, great questions though.
Unless the PLD has exclusions.
Right, there, my counterpart made a good point. Sometimes PLD does have exclusions and stuff as well, so there could be other variables. With that, you're probably privy to what each school district has for their own exclusions. So that could come into play as well, of course. So, all right, so we've covered subs, coaches there. When to contact RS is just as you guys had it. Anytime you have questions, we have staff available to help answer those questions. Don't ever feel like you're on an island. There's definitely a lot of times where you'll have something and you're like, I'm just not sure, you know, is this the principal function of introducing new learning? You know, I'm not quite sure. All we usually ask for is if you're reaching out like on a position, is usually the first thing we'll ask for is that job description. And if you remember why we ask for that is because job duties can be completely different even though the title looks the same across school districts. We just want to make sure we know what that person is doing. One easy checkbox that you can see is the DOE certification. So again, if the DOE requires certification and that member holds the certification, automatically in the teacher plan mandatory membership. So again, we're always open with any questions that come about. The last bullet point on here I wanted to let you know is we do have availability and offer member meetings and educational sessions. Member meetings, they can always call up. Members can call us up and come in and sit with one of our staff, go over their specific plan, review all their information. We also do educational sessions on a monthly basis. We have an intro plan for people kind of new to MainePERS. They want to learn a little bit more. We also have ready to retire sessions. If you have anybody that's in maybe 2 or 3 years of retirement or retiring at the end of that year, definitely encourage them to attend one of those ready to retire sessions because it kind of walks through estimates, the whole process and everything to get them ready. Yes?
I've had an employee who's an Ed Tech 3, who's only been in MainePERS going on her second year.
Yep.
She's asking me, she would like to take Social Security out of her paycheck and MainePERS. I told her no.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
felt
so-
she's heard that she had the choice.
Yep. So some people have that idea. So her question that she posed is sometimes you have like an Ed Tech 3, for instance, who wants to also have Social Security taken out. Obviously I'm not going to speak too much on Social Security and everything there, but I do know under the teacher plan, it's if you're within the plan contributing, you'd only be contributing to MainePERS. You wouldn't have Social Security for that, and I don't believe there's no option to have that elected. Obviously, legislation and stuff could always change that, but currently that's how we're standing.
We have
Yes.
a couple, since they eliminated that windfall
Yes.
thing, we have a couple of teachers retired that were 3-4 quarters shy of getting Social Security. Now they want to come back as subs to earn their quarters. They don't think that once you're in MainePERS, you're in MainePERS.
Correct. So his question was about the windfall elimination. So somebody that's trying to, they've retired and they're trying to get some more quarters for Social Security and trying to go up on that. If they come back to a MainePERS covered position, even though they're a retiree returning to work, as you all know, we wouldn't have contributions coming out for here, and they wouldn't have the election for Social Security just as they would when they were working.
One more question.
Yes.
How about if they went to another district?
Yeah, so it's still based on the position. It has to be a position. Some PLDs contribute to both. That's why I say based on the position. But it's really, that position would also have to have an option for Social Security to go in.
I was
Yes?
thinking, he said sub, so if you had somebody that was originally hired as a teacher, they got out of the teaching, but they did come back just as a substitute.
Yep.
Do they still have the one-time opt-in or out for subbing?
Yes, great question. So somebody was a teacher, they got done teaching, then they came back just to help out substituting. They still get that one-time optional election for substituting, so long as they haven't made that election prior for it. So if they have not made that one, they could opt in or opt out, even though they've already have a basis for it. Yep, they still get that election. Questions, Midway?
You mentioned the information sessions. Where can people find information on when those sessions are being held?
Yeah, thank you very much. So our website is where they're held, right on there. So if you go to our website, you can click the While Working. I think we're going to get a cool little preview of it here. No pressure, Katie. So if you go to our web, go ahead. Sorry. If we go to our website that loads here, yep, so click the While Working. Click the While Working. And then, as you can see on the side here, if you click for this one specifically, teachers, on the left-hand panel, and then the little one that popped up just below, teacher retirement planning sessions. Yep, and then, so this page right here has our ones you saw. If you scroll down a little bit, Katie. So it has our introduction to teacher plan. As I mentioned, very introductory, kind of gives a very general overview. Sometimes people, they get into the teacher plan, it's their first year, they're like, I have no idea what that is, but sure, I'll go into it. This kind of gives them a little bit more about what MainePERS is, what the defined benefit is, what a pension is, kind of talks about that. And also the ready to retire sessions, as I mentioned, these ones are more for those people that are within a few years of retiring. You can do it at any point in your career, but it starts to walk through an estimate, filling out retirement paperwork, and kind of gives them a general overview of that process. So, and then there's also ones for PLD and state and stuff as well on here for our educational sessions. So, excellent, great question there. Do we have any other questions? I see the back.
If someone is grandfathered into Maine PERS, like administrative assistant,
Yeah.
and they retire and return to work, can they be in the Social Security?
So that one is always, I say, case by case specific because of the grandfathering. We always want to look to see, the original reasons and details around it. Because sometimes when they originally get that grandfathering, sometimes there's a clause that goes right in their file that kind of talks about what that is if they were to return. For instance, not all cases, I've had some where after 2 years of being retired, it's no longer considered grandfathered if they wanted to return to work. But it's very case by case specific on those. So, great question though. Question back there? Yep.
I'm hoping to jump back to the trainings, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere that we, the employers, can see where there are Maine PERS training opportunities?
So
So like you had if I'm
the educational sessions.
Yeah, so like if I wanna know, hey, what should I be knowing about Maine PERS? Or are there like regular trainings for that?
Yep. So with that, we have vice versa. We have the member education ones that are on here. The intro to plan is actually a really great one for anybody that wants to know more. It's a very high level overview of the program that it talks about. If you're looking for things more on the employer reporting side for it, there are some trainings and sessions and stuff with that, which Katie will cover in a little bit for you. But yeah, definitely there's education and resources out there, and if you can't locate it, just give us a call. We're happy to point you in the right direction for it. And most of our stuff, they can sign up right online, and we use a program called Constant Contact that'll send them the Zoom links and remind them and everything for those sessions on there that they sign up. So right online. Yes?
Alex, the ready to retire sessions, do
Yep.
those provide the members with an estimate or not?
So the Ready to Retire sessions is just a Zoom session for whoever would like to join. We go over a sample estimate and kind of walk through. Obviously, everybody's situation's unique and different, but we do walk through a sample one. We usually encourage, there is a little, when they sign up for it, we do usually say, if you have your estimate and have it nearby, it might be more beneficial during that session. That way you can relate the example that we go over to your own estimate.
And if somebody wanted an estimate, is it just a matter of calling and making an appointment where the
Yeah,
specialist?
so an estimate, you don't even need an appointment. We do estimates so long as you're within a year of retiring on it, just so we can have the most accurate information, of course, that all that goes into it. So anybody that's looking for an estimate, they just have to let us know the date that they're looking for, the end of the school year. And then if they want to list a beneficiary, usually you need the name and the date of birth, and we can definitely open a workflow and get that out to them. And typically they'll get an estimate within 30 days or so after that. Great question, thank you. Yes?
Are those live meetings or are they like?
Yeah, so just as here, we do have a live presenter that goes over the information, and they are there to help with questions and stuff as well. So we do have a live person presenting a PowerPoint, excuse me.
So it's kind of individualized, or is it a group at those times?
Yeah, so it's.
I'm just wondering if we, as the employer, could hop on to the Ready to Retire,
Oh, of
just
course.
to kind of see like what you guys are saying to
Yeah.
the
Oh, we
potential
definitely encourage anyone that wants to attend a session, whether it's applicable to you or not, or just want to know more about what's being talked about, jump on those sessions.
Okay.
It is a live person that's presenting. It's usually one of our specialists and stuff that we have that are presenting that information, and they can help field questions and stuff as well. So they can help you with that. But yeah, we do those once a month, like I said, the schedule and stuff. But yeah, if it applies to you or not, just definitely feel free. We encourage anyone that wants to just know more, jump on those sessions. Yes?
Hi. I wanted to go back to a question that was raised over here. She was talking about a teacher, when a teacher stops teaching and comes in to apply for a substitute position.
Yep.
Do they have the option to opt out?
Mhm.
That doesn't include retired teachers, because once they're retired,
Right.
they don't have that option.
Yep, so when they're a retiree returning to work, and when we say retiree at Maine PERS, they're drawing the Maine PERS benefit. So when they return to work for you, they could have that optional election. It's kind of a moot point at that because they can't have contributions taken out and contribute towards their benefit. So if they wanted to have that on file, they definitely could if they've never elected before, but it's kind of a moot point because it doesn't affect their retirement. Retirees returning to work can't increase their benefit at all for that. So great question, thank you.
But you don't know
Yes.
the social security piece? I mean, that's what I was sort of, would,
Yep, so
say they
social,
have the option, they could then have the option to have social security withheld?
so I always say I don't want to speak on their behalf, and I check with them just because they're through a whirlwind of changes, as we all know, with the web and the GPO and everything. And policies and practices change for it, but I always say if you have questions on if they need to contribute to Social Security, we can definitely tell you from the main PERS side, but definitely check with them if there's a wrinkle in that, or if they opt out, or if they're looking for Social Security, if that's an option on that side. So, yes.
If I remember correctly, there's a retiree return to work 5% penalty or payment, or however you want to call it. Where does that fit into all this jumble of stuff?
Do you cover that?
I don't, again.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is, yeah. So we're leaning into the reporting question. Do we have anything on member eligibility? We'll have questions at the end as well. So don't feel that it's speak now or forever hold your peace. That's definitely not what we're doing here. We got questions at the end. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
We had a teacher.
Yep.
Who obviously is a new nurse.
Yep.
And then she did an adult class of like card making.
Yep.
Because she has basis.
Correct.
She,
Yep.
we do full contributions.
Correct. So, yep, so her question was about adult ed. It was a great one, so I'm going to make sure everybody heard it. They had basis. They were a teacher before. They still had basis with Maine PERS. They taught an adult ed class, I believe you said card making. We've had ones, again, basket weaving is a lot more frequent of a question that I get. Because they have that basis, regardless of what they're teaching, as long as they're teaching, they'd have contributions withheld on that position. So I'm going to, actually, do we want to do a break before we start? How are you guys doing? Are we in favor of maybe a small break, like a 5 or 10 minute break, or do we want to keep rolling? Anybody break, if you want to raise hands, I guess would be a few people. All those in favor of keep rolling, keep going through things, kind of impartial. I see impartial. Those who would like a break, definitely feel free to sneak out as you would. We'll kind of slowly roll through, but we will have questions at the end, so definitely feel free to do that. So we're going to transition. I'm going to have Sherry and Katie kind of jump up here. We'll get back to the PowerPoint and we'll keep going through.
You guys should grab these 2 chairs, because Katie looks mighty uncomfortable.
There's 2 of the chairs up
Thank
here.
you.
All the chairs.
Do you want a podium or do you want to sit?
Oh, I don't want
I guess
I want to move this over. Okay. Can you run it? Yeah, that's what I figured, so I'll go question it.
All right. There you go.
Good morning, everyone hear me? My name is Katie. I'm a trainer for the employer reporting team. So all your account associates, when they come new or if they have questions of like, is something earnable or something not, when you receive your payroll files, they ask me, and I'm like, but the same questions like, does this person have basis? Understanding what the basis means. What I'll say is if you guys don't know, reach out to your account associate. We monitor those emails. It might take them a little bit because some people are very new. They might not know, but I work with them and help them answer those questions. When you get an email of, hey, can you explain why earnings might not math right for us? That's why you're getting those questions. It's our job to make sure the members are whole. If you guys are members, I'm sure when you go to retire, you want that benefit to fully be there, right? Yes. Or not. So someone mentioned about employer training, which we do have. So on MainePERS.org, if you go to the employers section, and then you'll see the employer training sessions. And currently, this is what we have scheduled. It's very similar to the other side. For the members, you register, you'll get the Zoom link, you'll get the invite, you'll get a preview of the presentation, but that also gives you a link to what we call our landing page of helpful how to, like think if you get a new payroll person and they don't know how to do what MainePERS wants. It gives a great guide of how to do the things. So, any questions before I move into, we did like a pre-filler of your guys' questions, so we're going to answer those questions here. Okay? So, when do contributions need to be updated? Contribution rates change on July 1st of each year. Contribution rate should be changed in your payroll system for that first pay period in July, regardless of when you pay your employees. People get tricked up on that. They'll want to change it January 1st. Don't do that. Don't change it in August. When do group life insurance premium rates need to be updated? We're actually starting that, but we're always a month behind. We don't know if people started, right? So MainePERS invoices GLI premiums are monthly in arrears because of the feedback. Most of our employers deduct the current month and the current premiums in the current month. So you should update your GLI rates in your software within that first pay period. That'll be paid in July if you're paying in arrears to match our invoicing. Is there a calendar of important dates for your employers on the website? We're working on it actually now. We got this previously, and we're working with our communications department. It will show you when payrolls files are due by. It'll also show you when the rates should be updated. And there was one other thing that I think that was on there. The limited period enrollment for those PLD plans. That'll be on there to kind of let you know these are the things that need to be done. It'll look like a nice little flippable thing with one half the year on half the side, the other half on the other side. Monthly payments processing requested for an instruction manual. We have this, and I can show you guys. We've added that resource on that website of scheduling a fund transfer. And if you have questions about the document, or it might not make sense, or you can't get there, work with your account associates. We have the option to possibly bring you to a Zoom call, and we'll ask you to share your screen. Sometimes it's just not clicking in the right box, or it looks a little funky when you go to schedule the payment. It wants the amount up here, don't put it up there. It wants the amount down here in like the Excel sheet. So it's a little tricky, but the instructions are good if you follow them. But if you're not getting there, just pick up the phone or send your account associate an email, and we can kind of see where you are. A lot of people just try to put that amount at top. It won't let you change the amount there. And what documents do you need to submit for a new hire? When you hire a new employee, you'll need to submit a membership application form, and also if you guys offer group life, if applicable, the new employee should be also submitting beneficiary forms for their pension and also the group life, if they opt to take it. So think of that, if they're taking both, we need both.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
So it says here the new employee should submit beneficiary forms. Is that submitting to us or to you?
To us. But you'd also, like,
you
so.
give them the form and then they mail it to you? Because the directions on the back of the application says to return it to the employer.
I think it can go either way. We get them mailed to us directly from members, but we also get them from employers. The important thing is to make sure that they know to get them back to us.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I would get them in your office and you send them
What I would recommend though
in.
is,
Sure, you got 'em.
if they're asking who the beneficiary is, please do not answer that question. And I know this might sound weird. They can go and update their beneficiary, mail us the stuff, and our beneficiary would be getting updated, right? But you have the old file from 2019 and that's an X or whatever. So just be cautious of answering the beneficiary question. If you're questioning it and the employee is like, I couldn't get the answer, then reach out to us and we can help you to know what's on file for the most updated beneficiary. Okay? So, what documents do you need to submit when an employee terminates or retires? There's a lot. When you have an employee terminate, you'll need to submit the personal status change form to let us know that they have separated. Then we'll also use we'll use that form to terminate both the pension side and the GLI if that applies to you guys. So you don't need to send 2 forms. We'll cancel both lines, we terminate it in the system. In addition though, you'll also need to submit that vacation sick leave form detailing that final pay, so we can determine what portion of that final pay might be considered earnable. And if the employee is retiring, you'll also need that employer preliminary benefit certification form. And then with the teachers, they have to wait the 30 calendar days before they're hired. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And then we say, sorry, you can't retire because you're working. And what documents do you need to submit if I rehire or return to work? Same thing. So a new membership application just showing that they're an RRTW, a retiree return to work. And then the same thing if they're possibly opting in for group life, you would submit those forms as well. Can the membership enrollment application form and the application for GLI be combined? No. So our system basically doesn't allow it. It's like too robust. I know it sounds simple, it's just a form. But some of our plans might be only group life, not really with teachers, but we also carry PLD, state, and teacher plans. So if we combine it all in one, we might be missing people with those options. So we just keep it separate. So basically when you submit a form to us, it creates a workflow. We'll process a membership application, and then we do the group life as a separate workflow. And then if we have questions on one workflow, but maybe not the other, we're only questioning one versus that workflow not being able to be processed, and then the member not being able to submit on payroll. So MainePERS, we are reviewing that functionality as part of our system is getting updated in the next 3 years. So maybe some things might be changing, but if that is something that's changed, we will review that when our new system is up and running. Would MainePERS consider accepting termination forms prior to the actual termination dates? You guys clap, I don't. So this is hard, right? So when you submit us a termination date, and I'm just going to say someone termed on February 1st. They got done at your school, that's fine. Then you go to submit March payroll, and you have stuff that they got paid out for. Guess what happens to your payroll report? You can't submit it to us because you get those errors. Those errors cause phone calls or emails of I can't submit my payroll. Sounds fine, but some of our schools have over 653 employees. I just helped an employer fix 73 pages of errors. So if we don't have the membership applications processed or PSC forms and there's money coming in, it won't allow you to submit that payroll. So currently when a form comes in with that terminate, we process it, but then if they have payroll coming in on the next month, there's where it causes those errors. So I love it, but please hold.
I think that had a lot to do with the summer terminations, is really what I think it was alluding to. Because I sit with a pile of terminations on my floor all summer long, waiting to be able to process them.
So with summer terminations, what I would say,
when they terminate September 1st.
Yeah, so if they terminate September 1st, as long as you know nothing is coming in on October's payroll, submit that.
It won't let me. It won't let me put in July or August.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, just kidding.
I can't put in a
You can't do that.
That was a test.
That was a test. You can't do that. But yeah, you can't submit it ahead of time because it's future dates. So the form doesn't like it. We might look at changing how our forms are right now, but currently it's just like a I don't know how it is. It's like a script in the form in the background. It doesn't allow that. But if it was September and you're then terminating in September, you could put that September 31st date or 30th date in there. But it won't allow if you know in July you're terminating for September. Yeah, no. Sorry.
Do you understand how?
I do.
Okay, I can do it for my anthem, I can do it for my dental, I can do it for
Right.
everybody else.
But, yeah.
But I can't for you people, and it's really hard when in September you're now beginning your hiring process.
Right.
And you're sitting there with a pile of terminations.
Yes, and it's something we have heard from
No, I've
multiple.
requested it for 20 years.
With us getting possibly a newer system, we are looking at all the forms that we do ask employers to fill out. Can we simplify the process? Can we simplify a lot of it? I don't know the answer, but hopefully we can. So it's not such a heartache on you
But
guys.
you can do the form and save it as a draft.
Yes, you can save the form
And then just go back in and.
in
hit it
ESS and
after
save it
the-
as a draft so it alerts you that you have those people to terminate. But then people's lists get longer depending on how many employees are getting done. But it would be there somewhat pre-done for you guys.
But the work would be done, all you have to do is just send it.
Send it, yeah.
After they're really gone.
I hear you.
But that's
You
a
see what-
big
I know
choice.
what
And
you're
I wanna
saying.
get rid of that folder.
I know.
Out of my world, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I keep wishing, and it's on my wish list.
Well, I think Sherry wrote it down. We'll try to see if we can get it with our forms.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
So the clarification, and I've gotten in different answers from many people that I speak to in Maine PERS, with a teacher, they're technically done in June,
Yep.
but they get paid till August.
Correct.
So I've been told at times, oh, just put June as their term date. But
So-
they're gonna be on the reports for July and August.
Yeah, and there's more than one form that asks you for that date. So there's where you could get confusing questions if we're not clarifying what form you're asking. So on the PSC form, when we put they're terminated, we want to know what is the latest date on that form that they're going to get payroll on.
It should be the August date then.
Yes. However, there's another form, the vacation sick leave form.
Yeah.
There's where we'd want what was their last working day, and then it asks you. I think it asks what's the last paycheck date. So there's where you probably have gotten different answers because it's clear as mud if we're not clearing it up for you on what form you're talking about. So when in doubt, when you have the forms, you can reach out. We'll try to make it so you get that one streamlined answer.
So on the retirements, when someone's retiring, you do that certification of you would put the June date though, because that's the last day they worked when they're going to retire.
The pre-certification.
Yeah, the pre-certification, yeah. So there's where it's different dates depending on what form you're getting. And if we're not asking you what form you're looking at, you're going to get 5 different answers. So we try to work with our team to make it, on this form you do this date, on this form you do this date. On this form there's a frequently helpful guide because the form is asking for a lot of different stuff. But we are looking at, like I said, simplifying the forms or simplifying the process for you guys. So we hear the pain points, we're just trying to make it work in our system and also making sure our members are getting scheduled in their files the correct information for retirement. So, do we need to report teachers went on FMLA or PFMLA using their own sick time? The answer is yes. Please use a personal status change form to change their start date and stop date. Basically, we use that information to review service granted for certain types of leaves. So the most common one is possibly a sabbatical leave or something like that. We look to see if they should have gotten time during that leave.
How would you want to report intermittent FMLA?
I'm going to pass that mic to Sherry. I have one employer that doesn't love the answer I already gave them, so I wanted to hide. Do you want to answer that, or do we want to table it?
I think we'll get an answer to that question.
Well,
It's consistent.
please send an email, and I'm going to give you my direct email, just so we have it. So it's Katie, Katie, .reed with 2 E's, at mainepers.org. Just put your question. I have this question already in my inbox from another school. She didn't love my answer. And I was like, oh, let me look into it more. So, could there be 2 options for GLI premiums and deductions? Example, Group A, 26 pays per year in Group B, 21 pays per year for staff who do not get paid during the summer. Currently, we do not have that option, but we are exploring part of our new system upgrade. But our current system does not support that monthly premiums billing. So I know some of my employers have asked for those deductions ahead of time to cover them for those months that they're not getting those deductions. But yeah, more to come. Is it possible to eliminate the penny rounding issue in the GLI premium rates so that premiums are an even number? We have noted this as new rates are established by the actuary. We are working to make the monthly premium amounts an even number. And if you withhold or calculate the premiums on a 24 pay period basis, this should resolve that issue going forward. And then what are our phone hours and support? Often needing like a quick question and answers. Our core hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Some of our staff work 7:30 a.m. to 4. Some work 8 to 4:30. If you're having a trouble reaching your account associate, please, and like you're gonna get this handout, but you can call our main line. Someone normally is on the queue. They'll try to answer the question. Sometimes if they don't know the question, they might route you to the account associate they were trying to originally get hold of. Just leave them a voicemail. I know sometimes on payroll deadline it's urgent, but we try to get back to you the next morning as long as we're not on like vacation. What is the status of the upload function during high volume periods? The functionality has been recently moved to our production environment, and the information on how we use this for the coming. We appreciate your patience while we've worked this out with our software vendor. So it was like more of our software side of things. So Notepad causes a problem for our payroll vendors. What's the status of updating the format? The upload format is being reviewed as well as part of our employer portal replacement. So we're going to be replacing that portal when that comes. Maybe we can accept other forms outside of Notepad. And what sources of income are considered earnable compensation? Please refer to the earnable compensation document. If you don't know where it is, I can help you. But also when in doubt, reach out to your account associate. They might also say, great question, I need to reach out to someone. Some things are not clear if it's earnable or not earnable. Sherry's received many of my emails when I'm like, maybe. Once again, we always want to make sure the member is getting all the earnable income, but we don't want to report things that shouldn't be earnable. Is there a reason requesting for both a mobile and a home phone on a membership application? So I know most people nowadays have a mobile phone. When you're on the membership application, we only ask for one or the other. However, if you're trying to do a security admin form, we do ask for both because we need to be able to send you a multi-factor authentication to your phone. And if it's a home phone, they can't receive that. So we just ask to have the current membership application tell us what one it is by just clicking that box. And then Maine PERS policy is not to text members unless we're providing them a one-time passcode for the member portal to a known number. So think of they might need help getting a member specific question. That's how we verify that they're them. Can school district offer Maine Start? Yes. Do you guys all know what Maine Start is? It is similar to a 401k, and that's where my previous work was, but it's a 457 or a 403b.
The 457 or 401A.
457 or 401a. It's basically like an extra retirement plan. So think of it as a benefit maybe to your employees that want just more money in their retirement. They can put in what they want for contributions. I'm going to say hypothetically like 5%. That would go into that plan. There's the contact information for who handles all the questions about Maine Start. He can give you like the overview of what it looks like. This will also be in the PowerPoint that you guys will be receiving. His name is Gary Emery. He can answer all your questions, but just know it's available to the schools. So especially if one school offers it and another one doesn't, we all know how that works. George, the school next door offers it, why don't we? That's something you can reach out to us and Gary Emery can help you with it. And I think I pass the mic here, hopefully. Thank you.
How are we doing with break? Anybody want a break? So here on this slide, this is what Katie was talking about. This is the Maine Start Defined Contribution Plan. It is a supplemental savings plan for your employees in addition to their pension. And I know a lot of school districts offer, I think, 403B plans. We do administer one 403B plan, but it's for the Maine Veterans Homes, and it's limited, it's restricted to that group. So other employers participate in the 457 or the 401. So Katie's gone over some of this stuff before, but in the slides when you get them for handy reference, employer resources, what's available to you all out there to do your work with us. MainePERS website is a great place to start. There's a dedicated employer page. It does have frequently asked questions. It has the guides that we have available to folks. Registration for training, that sort of thing is all there. We do send out an employer update quarterly that gives you updates on what's happening. Changes in contribution rates come out that way, so watch for those. And then on the employer self-service portal, when you're logging into the portal, there's a news and alerts page. Right on the home page, we'll put little articles of interest. We put one up this week about the change in the file name convention for the payroll report that's coming in. So you'll see that as soon as you log in. Also there, you'll notice up in the upper right-hand corner when you log into the portal, there's a little question mark. If you click on that question mark, that takes you to knowledge base. And a lot of folks don't know that's there, but a lot of the documentation, answers to your questions are right in that knowledge base. We're currently offering one training, one flavor of employer training per month for basic MainePERS reporting and use of the portal. We're looking to expand that. Katie is our second dedicated trainer in the employer reporting department. She's been with us just over 6 months, so she's doing a fantastic job. We also have Vicki Hamlin. Many of you have probably worked with Vicki. Between the two of them, they're training you all to the best of our ability and training our staff. We've had quite a bit of turnover in our staff, so Katie's emphasis has been on staff training while Vicki's been paying attention to employer training. But as soon as we catch that up, we're going to be rolling out additional trainings in addition to that one per month offering that we have now. So if you have questions, you have topics for training that you'd like to see us address, please send them in to us. You can send them to Katie. You can send them to me. My email address is at the end of the PowerPoint as well. Or you can send them to the employer inbox, and we'll put those on a list and see if we can get those developed for you. One brand new resource for employers is we just published an instructional video online. I think Kyle said it's like 8 minutes. So it's an 8-minute video that walks you through how to fill out a membership application. So this is just the beginning of the things that we're trying to pull together for you all. But this is a quick way to go look at it at your own convenience on your own time. You don't have to wait for us to call you back. You can just look at the video, and if that doesn't answer your questions, pick up the phone. And then I just wanted to take a little bit of time. I've alluded to this a little bit throughout the day. We have done quite a bit of reorganization in what we formerly called our Employer Services Department. We call it Employer Reporting. You may have noticed the name change. Not because we're not providing service to you all, because we are, but we wanted to focus on what it is we're here for, and that's to facilitate employer reporting to us and getting that. I don't like to use the word compliance because that sounds legal, but getting that employer reporting compliance so that we're in compliance with plan rules and laws, and you are as well. So prior to the pandemic, if you were working with us back then, we had 5 technicians and account associates whose job was to support you all. They would help you pull in the payrolls, they would help you with making payments on the portal, whatever assistance you needed. We have over 600 employer entities reporting to us. So those folks were spread across, 5 people spread across over 600 entities. In order to better serve employers, we restructured the department in the last 3 years, and we've added additional staff to support you. We now have what we call account associates. We have 11 of them now. So on average, an account associate will handle between 60 and 65 of your accounts. Much better coverage. You should get much better response time from us. You should get your questions answered more quickly. What that comes with is they're all brand new. So we have 8 of those account associates who have 1 year or less of service with us. So they're building their experience, they're getting there, they're doing a good job. Katie's been a good resource to them, but just be patient with them, and as they ramp up their experience, they'll be able to help you more efficiently. So in addition to the 11 account associates, we have 2 trainers. We have a couple of ancillary support positions as well that help support the team all over count. One of the other things you may notice is you are not working with the supplier services team anymore when it comes to your group life insurance. Part of this change was to bring group life insurance into employer reporting, so you truly have one place to go for your billing, your premium billing questions and your contribution questions. So your account associate can handle that now from soup to nuts. They have retirement questions, you call Alex. And one of the things we did in this reorganization is we tiered the positions. So an account associate starts as a tier 1, and they work with some of our smaller employers. They learn the job with our smaller employers. We have employers that report 1 person. And then, of course, we have employers that report thousands of people. So our tier 1 associates, they start with those smaller accounts, and then they work up to as they get more experience. Excuse me. The nice thing about this program is it's self-promoting. So when somebody has mastered the tasks as a tier 1, they can come see me. We talk about where they're at. We do an assessment on their skills, and if they're ready to promote to tier 2, they go. And that, of course, comes with larger accounts, and it comes with a more pay for the individuals, so they're happy about that. And then they can support those more complicated employers. Those are the ones that have a lot of different pay schemes, maybe have thousands of employees, that sort of thing. So that's what they do. The downside to that, when we first implemented this tiered system, was many of you were used to having the same account associate or technician for decades. And you worked with Kathy Saucier, or you worked with Joanne LeClaire, and y'all called me up and said, "Can't I stay with Kathy?" We had to make some account reassignments in order to make this work for our staff as well as for you. And just know that those other resources are still there, and they also back up and support the new staff when they have questions. So they're still an option, but they're handling those tier 3 accounts. So, and then if you can't reach your assigned account associate for any reason, Kate's talked about it before, we do have the employer inbox, and then we have a department line. So if you call the 512-3100 number, you're going to go into the queue with all the members that are calling us. So you want to call the 512-3200 number, and that goes straight to the employer reporting phone line. And, thank you. And throughout this presentation, we've alluded to a new portal project. So I wanted to give you all an intro to what's going on there. We implemented the portal that we have today, the system we have today, back in 2011. We upgraded it, and I use the term upgrade pretty loosely. We moved it to a more modern platform in 2018 for security's sake, because we couldn't protect the portal without moving it. We did make some enhancements along the way, but our biggest concern was getting it to a platform where it could be secure. We understand that the portal is not scalable. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. I think we've talked about not being able to put our termination forms in early. That doesn't work for large employers, and we know that, and we understand that. So we're working really hard to come up with a system that will fit better with the employer of one and the employer of 1,000. So more work to come on that. We do put out employer surveys, so when we do an employer satisfaction survey, if you have questions, or you have comments, or you have ideas to make the portal better, please let us know. We do look at those. If you leave your contact number, you'll hear from me, because I do the follow-up calls to find out what it is you're asking about, to make sure I understand the issue, and then if we can do it right away, we do. If we can't, we put it on the list for this new project. So we began the process in 2024. We issued an RFP. We've selected a new vendor. We're in contract negotiations today with that new vendor, with the expectation that we'll be under contract by the end of first quarter. So if all goes well, it'll be by the end of March, we'll have a kickoff meeting for the project. We expect the project to take 3 years. It's a long project. As you can imagine, it's a huge portal. It's not just the employer portal, but it's the member portal, and it's all the inner workings of how we do our work. So all of that has to be lifted and moved. The difference between, if you were here when we implemented the last portal back in 2011, the employer portal was the last piece of the project, the overall project. And it got the attention that we wanted it to have, but it's not as robust as we would have liked it to be, because we were under time constraints and budget constraints and the whole 9 yards. But this time we're doing it in the opposite direction, so the employer portal will be first. And that'll get stood up in the first phase of the project. It'll have test data in it, and we'll be inviting folks to participate in testing that and working with that and giving us feedback on how it looks, how it feels. To the extent that it's configurable, we're going to work with employers to make sure that this is something that supports your needs to the best of our ability. It's really hard with a system like this because there's no off the shelf, but we're trying to do something where we can stay as close to core with the product that we've purchased, but still give you the customization that you need to make your jobs a little bit easier. So stay tuned for information about that. One of the first things we're going to do is put together an employer advisory panel. So you may be invited to join that. If you're not invited to join that and you want to, there'll be opportunities to self-opt in as well. But we're going to get that group kicked off in late spring or early summer. And that brings us to the questions part of our, I think we've had a lot of questions. Does anyone have any other questions? Now we're ready for a break.
I have a question.
Yes.
Kind of with the portal, I know we recently changed the secure email portal. Will the new portal change the secure email again? I ask because the new secure email I have trouble with. Like I register and then it works fine, and then it kind of doesn't let me log in again and brings me back to say I need to create my account, and I can't seem to get anywhere.
Okay. I don't know the answer if that's going to change or not. I know that the demos we've seen of the product that we're purchasing, that we're under negotiation with, does have communication channels built into it. So whether we're able to implement those or not, we'll have to explore them. So that might make a change. But until we get a little further down the road on this project, we won't know.
Okay.
If you are having trouble like that, though, if you want to reach out to us, we may be able to have some of our folks in the IT group in the background troubleshoot that for you.
That would be great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sherry, is it possible that a school district that doesn't have a PLD can establish a PLD? And if so, what do they need to do?
Yeah. You would speak to that, Alex? No? Or,
No, go
I
ahead.
thought you were going to say something.
Go ahead.
Yes, a school district can establish a PLD. The first thing you'll want to do is reach out to Deanna Doyle, and we can send that contact information out as well. She's our PLD plan administrator, and she can give you the rules and the things that you need to do that. Yes.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think this is great. I think it's great seeing names and faces and having this back and forth dialogue. And I think we need to do this more often. It's really beneficial for us on our end.
I'll speak. I won't speak for my colleagues. I'll speak for myself. I've enjoyed it, and to see this interaction, this back and forth. The work we've been doing in employer reporting. You know, I've been with Maine PERS for 17, almost 18 years. I'm the chief financial officer. I started as the finance director. I've been working with the employer reporting team for about 3 of those years, just for the last 3. And the things I've learned about Maine PERS, but also about what all you guys have to do in this last 3 years has been amazing. So I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot, and we'll look for opportunities to do this more. So, yeah. Anything else?
I just have a note for the new portal, while I'm thinking of it, is right now, the portal, like, if I save an application as a draft, so let me backtrack. If I preview the staff member and their address and everything comes up, and then I save it as a draft, when I go back in to submit it, all the changes, phone number change, email change, whatever, does not stay populated when I use the preview. So hopefully with the new portal, that whatever I save as the draft stays as the draft. Because I just feel like it leaves too much room for human error, because then I, obviously am paying attention to what I'm entering, and then I have to do it all over again.
So I was looking to Katie to see if she's seen that before, because that sounds like it's broken.
What was the question?
I will. So the question was, she's the employer's submitting, they're completing the form in draft and saving it, and then when they go back, make sure I'm saying this right, when any changes they had made to that pre-populated data that we put out there for her are gone, and you have to redo them. I don't know if anyone else has come across that. Katie's shaking her head saying she's seen it. So I made a note. I'm going to go back and talk to my tech people and see if that's. I hope it's not by design.
Yeah, it's only when I use the preview.
Only the preview.
So like if I just type all of the information, it stays, but I mean, obviously that preview button is there for a reason.
Right.
So it would be nice if it saved what I overrode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Katie or Alex, anything else? All right. Well, thank you for your attention and working through your break. Oh, go ahead.
I hate to be the last one or the last question, but with your new portal, like with your uploads for your retirement contributions and everything, is that going to change? Like, do the vendors for like software and stuff, do we need to have a new setup for your uploads?
Very good question.
Please hurry, and if you do.
One of the reasons we're doing the portal first is in case there is anything like that that has to change, so we can get in front of it with the vendors and with the employers. Our hope is that we don't have to change it significantly, but another one of the projects we're working on is looking at the data that you're sending us today and determining whether or not there's a better or easier way for you to be able to send that to us. And if we can make some streamlining in that report so that we don't have to ask for all the data elements that we asked for today, then we would want to make those changes in conjunction with this project.
We would like to volunteer to help you with that.
And your name?
Oh no, I'm with Harris.
Oh, you're with Harris, okay. Yes. We would love to have part of this employer engagement panel that we're putting together. We're starting with employers, but we are looking at strategies for how can we engage payroll vendors to come to the table with us. Because if we can help you help the employers, we all win.
Right, and I mean, we like to be able to do things and test before we upload
Yep.
stuff and make sure it's fine.
Yep. Thank you. All right.
Thank you guys all, this has been so informative.
You're welcome. And if you have questions, our email addresses are there, so send them to us after and we'll get it back to the membership.
Thank you all from Maine Purse. Hopefully you all found that very beneficial. Hopefully you got some of your answers, questions answered at least. We are slated because we didn't do a break this morning, so we're a little early. I will check with the staff here, but lunch is supposed to be served at noon. If it's going to be any earlier than that and I can arrange anything, I'll let you know. Otherwise, plan on noon. Josh is already here for Bureau of Labor Standards from the Department of Labor. So if we can get lunch going and moving, are you all okay with Josh starting earlier than 1 o'clock? Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Let me see what I can do with the senator. If not, it'll be noontime, and then as soon as it seems like we're wrapping up with lunch, we'll just start with Josh, if that's okay with you, Josh? Okay.
Well, I just learned about it.
Yeah.
Take a break and...
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hopefully everybody had enough food and is going to really be engaged, because nothing screams a good time like labor law in the afternoon.
Good thing they left the coffee
Hi,
out.
my name is Josh Atkinson. I work for the Department of Labor and the Bureau of Labor Standards. So I know a lot of unemployment jokes, but none of them work. Okay, good crowd, I can tell. All right, fantastic. Thank you for joining my stand-up special. Normally I teach a class on labor law in Rockland with a group of about 20 or so. So this is a larger group than I'm used to. And my presentation is usually 3 hours, but we'll shorten that by a little bit. As far as what's covered under Title 26, Chapter 7, which is most of the authority that we do our labor law classes or labor laws under, you're going to find all these items as seen in your booklets. If everybody got a booklet, if you didn't get a booklet, please, you can grab one off the back table. It's not required. There's also a youth guide to employment on the back table, and I believe there's also these calendars. These are a lot easier to give out at the beginning of the year. These are harder in November at the labor law classes. So just remember, we don't know how long we have, but a calendar's days are numbered. Fair enough. Okay. I hope somebody's writing all these down. So everybody that's in here has employees that are covered. So we'll be able to skip right over that one. All of these apply. Some of you, because it's municipality or schools, and we'll get into that, have things that are exempt because of the industry that you're in. And we'll get through that as well, what applies. I have had schools ask me where the labor law posters need to be. They should be in the break room, even if it's in a binder. I'm not a big fan of the binders, but they need to be accessible to all of your employees. So make sure that you have those current posters. You do not have to buy them. They are free. They are online. You can just print them out. They don't have to be in color, as awesome as that looks. They can just be on the wall in black and white. But they have to be current. All right. Is anybody do here quarterly reporting for their employers? Some? Good times. Go team. All right. So make sure you're keeping proper records. That is, I don't think we go out and do too many schools and municipalities as far as auditing goes. But when we do, you are required under law for the same thing, which is to have those records accurate. A lot of your employees are salaried employees, so true record keeping can kind of take a sidestep, but it's good to have. I know we're gonna get into earned paid leave in a little bit, but the presumption for salaried employees is gonna be the 40 hours. So, but you guys usually grant leave that is equal to or greater than what's provided by earned paid leave law. So again, kind of a moot point. Moot, not mute. There we go. All right, minimum wage went up. For some reason, it's tied to the CPE, so when you saw a large inflation, you saw a large jump in minimum wage. It's a complicated formula that I'd rather see done under statutory law, but it's all right as it is right now, what we're going to deal with anyway. You saw that there was a bit of a, not kerfuffle, but a change in laws because of the salary exempt wages that were going to go up in January, but of course that got shut down in court. So the salary minimum wage, $43,951 on the annual, or $845.21 per week. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise a hand and say, that doesn't make sense, because I have a habit of saying things that don't make sense. Overtime rate, again, doesn't apply to salaried employees, but your hourly employees, your the janitorial staff, groundskeepers, ed techs, those, time and a half for hours over 40. If you're working for a town municipality, some of that might be in a caveat as well, so pay attention to Title 26, Chapter 7, and look to see if it applies to those employees. All right?
I'm going right away. From my understanding is there's no such thing as a half-time salaried person. Like if you hire a psychologist and they're only there like half a day, 5 days a week, and they're half-time, but now their salary drops below that $43,000, then you have to start looking for overtime, and they can't be salaried and make under that regardless of what their contract says.
And the issue with that is, so if you have a salaried employee and the threshold, the 43,951, isn't met, you may want to look at, is that person performing the services in that week meeting that threshold? So if they are, you might be able to work with that. Now there are exemptions from salary that we'll get into, full day absence without leave, those kinds of things. So there are ways to deal with it. So, but it's just, it's going to take a bit to figure those things out, because if it's a part-time employee, are they making the salary in that week? And if they're not engaged as a salary employee outside that time, are they still meeting the exemption? So we'll look at it as a case-by-case basis, but, all right?
Can I,
yep.
can I kind of piggyback on his question? Because we've been given or different information by different people. And so my other question to that would be, does it matter based on how you pay them versus when they work it? Because as a school employee, we hold back to pay them over the summer, but they're only working during the school year. So how does that impact also that minimum salary amount? If they're not a teacher, they're not an exempt.
Your question is dipping into two separate things. The salaried employee, of course, would have the base rate, which is paid out weekly or bi-weekly as a flat rate. So they may be a salaried employee or salary exempt. We're talking about salary exempt employees. And as far as paying them over the summer, because you're not tracking their hours, so salary is just, and schools have always had that choice. I remember that it's like paid all at once, paid over the school year, or paid throughout the summer. So as a salaried employee, would be exempt from that stuff, as far as when you're paying them out. On your hourly employees, there was a law change, and we're going to get into that as well, where you can pay them over the summer, even though they're an hourly employee. And my current guidance is that, yes, it violates a lot of the other statutes, but we have an agreement not to enforce things that it could affect because they've entered into this agreement that's covered under this statute that says you can pay them over the summer, but they're an hourly employee. Why they would choose to do that, I'm not really sure, but.
Because we're their banker.
Well, that's just it. What kind of interest are you providing? Maybe we should talk. I mean, that's just it. Please take my money and pay it over the summer and not give me any interest on it because I want to be paid over the summer. I still can't wrap my head around that. So you're still subject to the same as far as work weeks go, even though it's salary employee. Did I answer your question? Kind of.
No, not
So
really.
if they're paid, I noticed that I was jumping ahead and I went, wait a minute. I didn't really
I
answer
think
the
it more
question.
has to do with because we were told that the salary amount is based on them working an FTE of 260 days. And they don't. And so we were originally told that you could then prorate that because their actual time is possibly 182 days, or for some staff, maybe 175. And so you could prorate that to determine if you're meeting it based on what they're actually working. So it leads them to be part-time because they don't work 260 days a year, but we're paying them all year. So a school nurse, just as an example, does their minimum salary have to equate to that if they only work 182 days a year versus 260?
So your contract with the individual that's performing the work can't, in this situation, because it's being paid over the school year, but this is a salaried employee, so they're going to be making $43,951, but you're paying them over the summer, but you're paying them less because you're paying them the $851 per week. Because the issue with this is, are you talking about an hourly employee or a salaried
employee?
So a salaried employee that's making under the established salary rate,
Correct.
but you're going to pay them over the summer.
Well, they're paid year-round, yes.
So contractually, they're contracted for, let's say in this example, 180 days, not 260. So I think your question, and correct me if I'm wrong, is can you take the 43,951 divide by 260 and multiply by 180, and that's the minimum salary exemption
Thank
for
you.
someone contracted 180 days? Am I correct?
Yes. And then that would lead to his, because some of them are also maybe 60 days.
So they're earning during the time that they're at school, but you're going to pay them over the summer, but you're not going to pay them the $4,951.
Correct. If they're part-time, some of
Yep.
them too, yeah.
What did I learn from Maine peers? Yeah, we're going to get back to you on that. The change in the statute that happened last year before, where it said you can pay hourly employees over the summer. Well, it said hourly. So
I thought
how?
teachers were exempt no matter what. I mean, isn't Fair Labor Standards say teachers are exempt? And if they're exempt, does it matter if they're part or full-time?
Are they exempt under salary exempt status, or are they exempt as their own standalone?
They're listed.
They have their own
Here, list that.
standalone statute. Is it under Title 26, Chapter 7?
It's the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act is what I'm referring to.
I'm Josh Atkinson with the State of Maine Department of Labor. The federal guidance, we'll apply what's ever favorable to the employee, but if there is guidance from the Fed under Fact Sheet 22, I think you're referring to Fair Labor Standards Act, and considered hours worked, we'll usually follow that guidance. So.
The issue with most of the people in this room is that we have lots of people that will fall under the teacher's negotiated contract, but they don't teach in the classroom. The nurses will get under there, psychologists, counselors, all these other people that don't, well, counselors probably do if they're a school counselor, but not if they're like different kinds of counselors. So they're not teachers per the feds, because they're not teaching kids in the classroom, but they get lumped in with teachers when it comes time to negotiate, because they all work a school year, or maybe a school year plus 10 days, and so they all fall, they get the same benefits, everything else, but they're not exempt federally, but we put them all in the salary bucket with them.
And to further complicate that, you have schools that are small that can't employ a full-time PT, for example. So I have a 40% PT, so they're making under that, but that PT also works for another district. So overall, their salary's above that, but we're each paying them salaries separate.
I would suggest you get a cooperative agreement and just pay them under one district and have the other district pay.
That sounds fantastic.
That's all. That's all one person.
Right. With that. With that being said, the other, I mean, as far as like, what part of the statute would be enforced under this, and is that individual making under minimum wage because of the agreement between the two districts? No. So we won't have to worry about that, because normally we're triggered by minimum wage violations. Rest break violations sometimes, but minimum wage violations are the more pressing. Or the fact that people don't get paid at all. That's usually why we also get activated and sent out to an employers, is when people aren't being paid. So, with that, my card's on the back table if you want to email me, and we'll put that under Bartlett Hutchinson. He is the chief labor investigator. I'm going to throw him right under the bus right away and have him address that question. It should be all right, because it's meeting one standard, the 851, even if that individual isn't working a salaried position for the entire year. Oh, work week again. I'm glad to get back to this. All right. So, again, your hourly employees, to which this is applicable, 40 hours stands alone. That work week is any consecutive 7 days. So it doesn't have to be Sunday to Saturday. It can be Monday to Sunday. So, again, that stands alone. So if somebody, I get a lot of calls that say, if he works 32 hours this week, can he work 48? And I just pay him the same. And the answer is no, because you have 8 hours of overtime and 32 hours of regular pay. But it happens more often than we like to see. Again, a bunch of stuff that's not applicable to you. So hourly rates, piecemeal rates, these are all the things that are considered remuneration or for pay. I was confused when Maine Peers said these things are not considered covered or part of compensation. It's all compensation to me. So per diem rates, commissions, shift differentials. Commissions are awful. I'm glad you guys don't have to worry about that one, because I get a lot of calls about commissions. As long as people are paid the minimum wage as a base rate, anything else is what I like to say private right of action. So go file in court, because it's whatever you contracted with the employer for is something you have to negotiate yourselves. So what's excluded from wages? Some pays, gifts, payments for time not worked, holidays. Holidays don't have to be paid, but don't take that one with you. Reimbursements for expenses, discretionary bonuses, profit sharing plans, those kinds of fun items. So I could take you through my overtime calculations and how to do that, but I'm assuming that most of you have a grasp of where to get overtime rates. We do have a website. The USDOL has a website that helps you with overtime calculations if there are particular things in the hours that the employees work that could affect what the overtime rate should be. Shift differentials, non-discretionary bonuses. Blended rates. Right here, so right. Particular hours doing certain tasks. So production bonus, tipped employees. I'm assuming with this crowd, I don't have any restaurant owners in here looking to figure out how to evade the tip pool laws. Oh, Moses. Yeah, under Title 26, Chapter 7, it says that the tips are the property of the employee. Most employers don't believe that for some reason, even though it's written right there. So limits on mandatory overtime. I'm hoping that it still applies to salary personnel, but no more than 80 hours in 2 consecutive weeks. Insane. So, of course, with emergencies, power outages, things like that, that can be waived. But normally people aren't doing 2 40-hour jobs in a couple weeks. But so here's your salary exempt status. again, minimum salary, that was supposed to be like 58 something. There was a big panic involved with that because, you know, the federal guidance had said that that was going to go through and then it didn't. So with this particular topic, there are normally only 4 categories for salary exempt. Gosh, I hope there are 4. Administrative duties, the executive, learned professionals. They're your school teachers. So they fit into this one. Creative professionals. I don't know what you do with music teachers, but sure, I'll have to fit under that. So, and the highly skilled computer employee, but not the guy running the help desk, not the guy actually writing code or lady. The allowable deductions from salary. So if they are absent for a full day for personal reasons, and of course you guys have a lot of leave in your policies, probably don't have to worry about removing pay from particular individuals. Full day absence for sick only allowed if the employer has a paid sick leave policy and the employee has exhausted those benefits. Then you have your infractions and safety rules, suspensions, and prorating in the first and last week of work. So, again, this is probably not things that you guys will have to concern yourselves with in your particular industry. Child labor is something that you might have to deal with. Anybody do the work permits for youth, things like that, fun times, yay.
Yeah.
All right, 14 and 15, work permits, 16, 17, not required. Do reference our hazardous duties. Try not to have the 14-year-old running the skidder. If Bart was here, he'd tell that story again. That you know, kids can't be operating the chainsaws and loaders and whatnot. But you know, they can't run the oven at the Subway, but they can hold a really sharp knife at the counter. Either way, there are some fun caveats to the child labor. So, school hours. So even if the and most likely you aren't going to run into these questions, and if you do, you know, you can go to maine.gov and find some of these answers, or give us a call. 623-7900 is our main line. We do have an inspector manning the phones, answering labor law questions. Sometimes it's me. So, right. So if school's in session, a question I get is, you know, the kid's homeschooled. Well, then it goes by the district. You know, so it's still the superintendent of that district that will sign off on that child doing child labor. And they still have to abide by a lot of these rules. So I did recently get a call from a town that said, what can, you know, youth firefighters do? Because the governor had a little push on youth firefighters and employment, stuff like that. And I don't think I told them it's just free reign, you know, send the kid into the burning building first. You know, they're lighter, the building won't collapse, it'll be fine. No, all those rules still apply. So still hazardous occupations apply even if they are a youth firefighter. They can't enter the building until it's deemed safe by the person in charge. It can't be burning, it has to be done burning. All right. So employers for minors under 16 years of age, on your yellow poster, it should have the child labor laws. It should give the hours on that as well. So when they can be working, when they can't, how many hours in a week they can work. And that poster should be up. So, and don't be afraid, we do have a website and a portal for complaints if you find out that there are child labor law violations happening.
What if it's for like a family business? Is that different at all?
Is the business solely owned by the parents?
Yes.
Yeah. I was surprised too. Almost anything goes with that. So if the hours don't apply, You don't have to pay them. It's just a really cool gig for parents. So I ran into that case. They did, under the statute, they were supposed to be reporting the hours, but we didn't prosecute the last one that I caught for that either. So I was like, but you have the kids serving alcohol and they're 12. I mean, they're doing a really good job, I get it. But liquor enforcement will take that up, not Department of Labor, I guess. Yeah, well, at least they had somebody carrying the booze that was sober.
Will the new state of Maine minimum wage law for education employees apply to minors? So if we have student
Yes.
workers, it does apply to them.
Unless there's a particular caveat in any new law, then yes, minimum wage still applies to minors.
I'm talking about the educational minimum wage.
I don't know of any exemption specifically under the law. I mean, if we were to apply Title 26, if there's a carve out for youth employment under a certain age doing, as part of like a study, as part of their curriculum, like a learning opportunity. I know that there are a bunch of things under the statute that say if they're, they can do work in a particular industry if it's part of their educational training. So I don't know if that allows them to not apply minimum wage to that. I believe they still have to be paid minimum wage. If there's any kind of exemption, then it would have to be filed with the department. So.
Yeah, we were unclear. So in our district, we run a culinary restaurant as part of our CCE program. We have a lot of student workers. We're unclear if they have to be paid minimum wage times 1.15, or if they can just get regular minimum wage, since they're employed by the school.
The 1.15, are you talking about overtime? Or, because it would be.
So public schools starting this year have to comply that if you're an educational technician, minimum wage for an educational technician is 125% higher.
Right.
For non-educational technicians, it's 10% higher.
15.
So you've got different minimum wages for school employees than Maine labor.
Right, but this was for child labor, right? So these students aren't administrating anything. They're not teaching anything. It's part of their educational instruction.
From what we can see, the law doesn't say anything. It doesn't appear to give any differentiation of employees.
When there's no breakout if there's no exemption to the law stated in the statute, then minimum wage is going to apply. So the 1465 is going to apply unless there's a carve out for it.
I mean, we employ ball chasers. Yes, we pay them minimum wage.
Right. Paying the minimum wage is all right, and also if it's, so they can be in those activities because they're part of a school district. If it's part of obviously that's not educational. That's not a component of continuing education. So paying the minimum wage is the correct answer.
Oh, yeah.
Or the increase if there's a carve out for it. All right. So again, minors under 14 years of age. Business is solely owned by the minor's parents. School lunch programs, there you are. And agricultural. 1 potato, 2 potato. The work permits, again, call Department of Labor, go onto our website and get those forms signed. They can work for 2 businesses during the summer. It's not transferable. You don't get a work permit and that grants the individual, they can work at any place. No, it's specific to the employer in which they were issued the permit. I get a lot of ones in the summertime where students are working, because they have a work permit, they believe it's just free reign to any employer that will hire them. So here we are with the compensation requirements and the wages, rate of pay. You can lower rate of pay, but you have to give 24 hours notice that there's been a change in rate of pay. Change in rate of pay cannot be a surprise. I get calls about the surprise change in rate of pay almost as much as I get surprise you're not getting paid. So make sure that you give them notice. They say, does it have to be in writing? It's best, really, best practice is to have it in writing. Notifying the employee verbally and having them be able to contest your change is not awesome. Timely and full payment of wages, again, this regular intervals now apply to salaried employees, and I'm not quite sure what those regular intervals are, but before you could pay a salaried employee almost whenever. It made it very difficult when it came to final pay, because as a salaried employee, there was no particular statute saying issue that final paycheck. For everybody else on hourly employees, can't exceed 16 days on your intervals. By the time you close your books on whatever pay period it is, it has to be 8 days to get them paid out. Unless you work for the state, in which they can do whatever they want. Timely and full payment of wages. So the regular payment required on the established payday. You can shorten a pay interval to weekly anytime you want. You have to let the employee know if you're going to go to a bi-weekly pay period. All right, so 30 days advance notice if you're going to increase those intervals, and if you're going to decrease the intervals, do it whenever you want. Again, lowering rate of pay requires 1 day advance notice. Again, timely and full payment of wages. Salaried employees must be paid on an established payday or date, regular intervals, known to the employee. Except for your little carve out for school personnel. So, this 12 months about, again, we won't enforce it if it violates other components of the statutes, because you're trying to meet this condition of employees wanting to be paid over the summer. That's a really complicated thing. Go ahead.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's in this place to ask or not, but we have in the teacher contract, obviously stipend positions, and those are all the coaches and all of that stuff. What happens if an hourly employee takes one of those positions? Now, I'm making them do timesheets, but they're not giving it to me in a timely manner because they feel they should be treated just like the salary people and get that stipend split like the salary people do. Did I ask that correctly?
You did, and it's still a hard question. The per diem, your coaches and whatnot, they have caveats to those positions where you can pay them in, well, same intervals, but you are a common paymaster. So I've had several of these questions, and it does really depend on the job the employee is doing before. So you have an hourly employee who's working an 8-hour job, and now they're also coaching after school. So if they're doing over 40 hours in that work week because of that, do they get time and a half? Yes, common paymaster, right? I mean, you're directing and controlling the work regardless of their activities. So normally that would apply. Until they write something into the statute that says otherwise, that's what we're going to go with.
So could we potentially get in trouble if they don't
They don't submit a time card at all? And
Yeah.
we have a final thing that says if you don't submit anything, it'll be paid out of June 30th?
Yeah.
That's what ours, all of our healthy kid packs do that. They don't submit.
So they don't submit the time card because they don't want it hourly. They don't want it a little.
Because it's like a stipend for like
They want the
$100
stipend.
or maybe
Right.
$350. And instead of them getting like only $14.65 of it this week because I only worked 1 hour, they'll wait until June 30th and say, I completed my task, I'm done.
The mean answer is the onus is on the employer for properly keeping track of hours worked and having them recorded under 622 of our statute. So the onus is on the employer. That being said, enforceability really comes down to the fact that if the person comes to us and says, my employer didn't pay me for those hours worked, I mean, our enforcement would come from which violation of the statute. So I'm not telling you to evade the law.
Well, what I'm saying is like sometimes they won't even ever submit a time card, they even worked it. And so then the contract states on the bottom of it, if nothing's submitted, you're paid out this amount by June 30th.
Oh, just to get your books squared.
Right, that's what it says on it, like, you're guaranteed this money.
On our contract, ours specifically states, if you're an hourly employee, you must submit weekly timesheets,
Ours does too, and they still don't.
And I have to track people down, what I do is reach out to our athletic directors and I say, I need this, and I tell them, I need it to be in compliance with the Department of Labor.
I've done
I
the same.
have to have that. And we have had hourly, it's been ed techs for us for whatever reason, they have not been able to coach again because if I can't get records that DOL is gonna be okay with, then you're not gonna coach next season.
Yeah, I always throw them under the bus and say, it's not me that's doing it.
I always blame it on the.
Yeah, it's our fault. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really is. We're horrible people.
I'm gonna get this card out to people and specifically say, if you
Yep,
wanna do your
yep.
time sheet, call us.
That's right. That's right. If you don't fill out your timesheet, Josh will call you and bother you. Again, the onus is on the employer. Have those timesheets completed. It is a coaching thing. It's an HR kind of issue with your employee.
So I have to continue doing that. We can't do it any other way.
Until there's something that can exempt you from it.
So since we're speaking about stipend employees, we've been advised by council that if a coach is hired only in the capacity as a coach, that he falls under the same exempt status as a teacher. So we are being told that they are not subject to minimum wage laws, they're not subject to the same, or they're subject to the same laws teachers are. So that is what we're being advised by Drummond Woodsum. However, if somebody is hired as an ed tech, which makes their primary position not a coach, then they are subject to hourly rate, and we require them to do a timesheet. Now, I know that Drummond Woodsum is not the Department of Labor, so that's why I'm asking you how it's going to be looked upon by the department.
And this will be an interesting deflection. Whenever you receive guidance from legal representation, ask them to cite which particular statute they're referring to as far as the application of law. So they're saying, hey, you don't have to do this because they're in this capacity. Great. What's your source?
So when you come in and visit me, and
I'm the source? I'm not a source.
That's what I'm going to tell you, right?
Yeah, if they have it under Title 26, Chapter 7, or if it's under Chapter 13, 1043, exempt employment of some kind, which it could be, but we need that cited.
Okay.
Have the statute handy.
Okay.
The statute is great.
We also asked Drummond Woodsum that question several years ago, and they gave us the opposite answer. So we treat our coaches that are only employed as coaches as hourly.
So this answer was given last summer, and all the athletic directors are citing something going back to a federal title.
Are they citing Richmond? Because the state already decided that the Richmond, Virginia thing wasn't applicable to Maine coaches.
All I know is the guidance that we're getting from Drummond.
This was the conversation we had. We got audited by the IRS like 7 years ago, and that was a whole other ball pitch. But this was one of the things to come out of that. And Drummond Woodsum said that if they're not employed in any other capacity, your best thing to do is monitor them as if they're hourly employees. If they go over the amount, pay them more.
Or tell them to set up their own business and do it as a 1099
Right.
under Schedule C, which you could probably get away with under those kind of conditions if that's what they're doing. They're a coach for several. If they're all over the place and that's their own, if that's what they do for a living, then that is perfectly legal as well. Not that I'm giving you ways to skirt around the law, but that's exactly right. So it really depends. So that 621A that we've referenced a few times, the law requires school administrative units or schools in an unorganized territory operating under Title 20-A, Chapter 119, to provide school personnel who are paid an hourly basis to operate with the option of receiving pay over a 12-month or shorter period. Again, I mean, I could do that for all of you if you want me to take your pay and I'll just give it out to you over the summer and I get what's. What do they call that? Well, what do they call that? It's something that payroll companies do. Not that I'm throwing them under the bus, but it's called the float, right? You get the interest, and then you pay that out later. But the longer you hold on to those funds, the bigger your account is, and the more interest you earn.
Does it matter when we hire them?
For which?
So for us, we've always done prorated pay.
what we call it in our district. We've always done it, but we have it written into their negotiated agreement that they have to elect that at the beginning of the year or by October 1st. So like if they come in December, we don't usually calculate a prorated pay through June. We wait and then they can elect to at the beginning of the new year. Is this no matter when they come in?
So then your employee is hourly? Because again, this is only applicable to
We pay them hourly,
hours.
but there's no, because they come in partway through that particular year.
So you're prorating the year.
We don't prorate for that first year. We won't prorate until the second year that they're actually going to work a full 12 months, if that makes sense. Or work a full school year. I guess would be the better way to say it.
Okay, so the salaried employee, because they're coming in partway through the school year.
She's talking hourly.
But they're hourly now, but the following year they're not going to be, right? Because
No,
you
they're
put them
hourly.
in this bucket.
No, they're hourly, but we used to, years ago, we used to not have staff leave during the year. Like people generally didn't leave until the end of the school year, and then they start. But the last 10 years, people are quitting their jobs all over the day, every time of year, it doesn't matter. And so for us, it's a little more complicated to start that process partway through the year because they're gonna get less over the summer. There's not gonna be that much
Right.
to hold back. And so I'm just curious, does it matter when they start? Are we still required to do that for that particular year, even if there's only like 4 months left in the year?
This, as the statute is to be applied, because it didn't even think of that when they created this. It's just basically creating that option. So you're right, it's very difficult to pay somebody out over a summer who's only earned so much. You don't have enough income to divvy that out. So however you structure your payout can be the guide, right? Because otherwise, I mean, this basically that statute 621-A allows for that less than minimum wage pay for the summer. So you have to earn X, and I don't know why somebody would do that, but you can sign something and make it happen.
I think she's asking if it's okay if her bargaining agreement says in that first year that they can't. Is that what you're saying?
Oh.
Right.
Yeah. So like
They have to sign
their
it.
collective bargaining agreement is saying that in the first year they're hired in December, work December to June. Is it okay that they don't have the option for pay averaging until the following school year?
I don't think we've litigated that yet. I don't think that's come up in front of us to.
Oh, well,
to
we're not
factor.
doing that, so.
Right.
That was a hypothetical.
And exactly. Well, and also, where is the? I don't know what the penalties for violating this particular statute are, so it's like hardly something that's going to come up. All right, cessation of employment. Whoop.
I think if you've never spent time in a school district, you should spend a week or two in the school district's payroll office just to see what we go through.
Yeah.
Not mine,
But not mine. Hey, Josh, I'll give you her name.
I can give you directions.
This June I'll be married to Erica for 25 years. She was the 2016 Lincoln County Teacher of the Year. So I get, there we go. But yeah, I get enough school stuff already. I'm good. So yeah, we'll just go whatever it says.
and teachers are very different than payroll offices, just so you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes too close to the same. Right. Right. Cessation of employment. I do get calls still that say, do I have to pay the employee on the day that they quit? No, just on the regular pay cycle. So if somebody asks me if they've been paid over the summer, elected to do that, and then they quit the job, do I still have to pay them with this? Yes. Follow the contract that you've signed, I guess, because it exempted you from the statutes for minimum wage and everything. So just follow that through, but keep those pay intervals, because normally you're not paying somebody throughout the year. That would be a very odd situation. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But again, vacation pay needs to now be in in the final pay. I don't think they exempted schools from that one. Well, and with that, so a lot of employers changed it to PTO, EBT, anything but the word vacation, so that they wouldn't have to follow the statute that pays out vacation pay. So I don't think you have a lot of loans or anything in the school system to remove from final pay. Advanced on leave, you can remove from final pay. I have a lot of employers that are not so much, employers and employees that say, you know, my employer's not giving me my final paycheck because I didn't return my uniform. I didn't return their keys. I stole their dog. Whatever it was, you need to make sure that you pay out the final paycheck on its regular established interval. Otherwise, you're violating the statute. So don't break one law to try to force another. Overcompensation. So the difficult part with this one is that down at the application, the section does not apply if the employee knowingly accepts overcompensation, because some employees will feign ignorance for anything. So other than that, if you overcompensate an employee, make sure that it's no more than 5% of the net amount without a written agreement. If they're agreeing, go ahead and take more out of my paycheck to fix the situation. Then it's fine. But make sure you get it in writing. Writing's awesome. So.
Also, if they quit, you can withhold whatever they owe. If you overpaid them and then they...
If it's a loan or an advance on pay, things like that, yes. But other than that, no. So
if we overpay them $1,000 and they get $500 a week, and then they work 2 weeks and then they quit the next week, how am I going to get my 5%?
No, you can remove that from final pay. That is correct. Yep. You might not get all of it, and then you'd have to take again private right of action to recover anything that was overpaid. Unfair agreements, so you can't have an employee working without compensation. Unless non-profit, some of the municipalities, some of the schools, there's caveats for everything. Or wage garnishments, those kind of things. So you can't exempt an employee from the other statutes except for 621-A. So again, it violates the statute, but we won't bring that into an audit. So rest breaks, salary employees, because you're not giving them, they're not keeping track of their time. Don't have to follow this very much. For your hourly employees, try to have scheduled breaks if they're working over 6 hours. Rest break exemptions. I don't know why they did that to taxi cab drivers, but sure. So damages, liquidated damages, that's become a big thing with the Department of Labor. If you don't pay your employees, we will, not only do you have to end up paying them, but then we're going to assess 3 times damages. So you owe them $1,000, now you owe them $4,000. We've had a few of those situations already.
Can I just ask a question back on rest breaks?
Mm-hmm.
So we've had some employees that have asked if they can sign something to waive their rest breaks.
Yep.
What is the DOL's view on those?
All of DOL? Can I speak on all of their behalf? Well, you can sign a rest break waiver. You lose control of your breaks, though. I mean, because it's no longer scheduled, they can kind of take the breaks whenever they're available. If you're all right with that employee taking breaks whenever a break is available, they can sign that waiver, and then they'll take breaks when time allows.
And does that also mean that they can then leave when they reach that scheduled hours? Because they say, well, the rest of my shift is what my lunch break would have been.
Rest break waiver.
Yeah.
So again, you've lost control. But you're signing in and signing out, so those hours are logged, and you're paying them for all hours worked that are on whatever the timesheet is. Of course, it makes it really difficult for us. Make sure you keep those rest break waivers signed and in the file, because when they call me and they say I'm not given a rest break, and I don't have that in the file, and I take your time records, because it's basically what I audit all the time is time records and pay stubs, and I don't see a rest break in there, then that's where I write a citation letter saying here's the number of counts I have.
So if someone chronically emails our office to say I didn't get a lunch today, should that be one of our automatic responses that, okay, you've missed every lunch break this week, we'd like you to sign a waiver to acknowledge that you forfeited your lunch break?
So I only use the lunch break waiver if they're gonna be that way forever. So say they're in an FLS scrum and they have a one-on-one student that they can never really leave alone. That ed tech signs a lunch waiver form. But if something goes on during the day, that something happened that they just couldn't take a lunch because it didn't allow, but they normally are contracted to take a lunch every day, then I just have them fill out a time adjustment sheet that says no lunch and the reason why, and their building admin signs it. So then I keep that on file.
We have
Is that paid
secretaries.
or unpaid break?
These are unpaid.
Right, we have secretaries wanting to not take the sign off that they don't wanna take their break, so that they can leave a half an hour early and leave like basically when school's out.
So we did that too, and we told them no. Because of, with secretaries, they have a sit-down job like 24/7, they're always at a desk, they're always, you have the chance of getting more workers' comp claims because they're not getting up and moving or stretching or doing any of that. So we told ours they had to take a lunch break.
Should be on your posters too, right? VD, visual
Yes.
display terminal training, those kinds of
Yep.
things. Yeah, follow the guidance that are on the posters in your packets, as far as, eye strain, those kind of things,
Right.
ergonomics. Right. Again, rest break waivers, you lose control of your breaks. I've had calls where the person works in the restaurant industry and she says, well, they make me take my break at 9:30, I get there at 8. I don't want to take my break until later, it's not 6 hours. They schedule the break. The reason they want you to take it at 9:30 is because they're going to serve lunch and they want you to be working when lunch is here. So, again, yep.
We have it written into our bargaining agreement with our service employees, and there's a whole lot of language that basically says your length of your work day is 8 hours. If you take a lunch break, you leave after 8.5 hours. If you choose not to take a lunch break, you leave after 8 hours. Should we still be doing the lunch break waivers, or is that, it's like a lengthy paragraph summarizing that, saying that if you choose not to take a lunch break, you can leave after 8 hours?
Again, you can, but just make sure you have the documentation. Just make sure that
So
they're acknowledging.
would you do the rest break waivers as well as having that in the bargaining agreement, or?
Seldom
We
is
have
less
like
documentation
40
better.
custodians and not a single one of them has ever taken a lunch break, is what they tell
Right.
me.
Right.
They have a pool table in
Yeah,
the room,
five-
they never
right.
take it.
Five smoke breaks, but no lunch break. Remember, any breaks under 20 minutes have to be paid legislatively. That's in the statute. It says any breaks under 20 minutes. And if they have the opportunity to take frequent breaks, you don't have to abide by the statute. If you have less than 3 employees on site, you don't have to follow the statute. There are exemptions to rest breaks.
But probably still better practice to have the rest break waiver as well
Yeah.
as the generic language.
Yep. Yep. The strangest call I had was one where the person said, or the employer said they wanted to be paid the overtime because they were working through their lunch break. It was a paid lunch break.
We get that every week, every single week from an ed tech or a teacher. I worked through my paid lunch break. How do I put that on my time card?
You don't.
I paid you for 7
You were
hours.
paid to eat the sandwich. You should have had the sandwich. Yeah, I know. It takes all kinds. All right. All right. I'm gonna get you guys out of here. Now, I really am. I promise. I promise. Some of the newer laws, the statutes. That doesn't mean you can't set up certain rules within your organization. Just you can't discipline an employee for not joining your cult or however that's going to go. So just be cognizant of that. Protections against retaliation. For our 620, that applies to wage and hour kind of items. Remember, retaliation is under, they came to the state to say my employer's not paying me promptly, or my employer bounces checks, or my employer makes me sleep in the, I don't know, who knows. Whatever is happening, if they come to the Department of Labor saying that they have a particular dispute under a statute, and the employer terminates them, reduces hours, those kind of things, that can be considered retaliation. We're not really terribly concerned about the Fed has taken this on. USDOL is big on retaliation law, so just be aware of that. And of course now the PowerPoint jumps all over the place. Again, tip pooling, the change in law was October, not last year, probably the year before, 2023. You can now include the back of the house and restaurants in the tip pool if you're paying minimum wage. I know everybody's waiting for that one. All right. Paid family medical leave. Yay. Bye. So, I talked to my friend Stephanie, who she went over to the paid family medical leave unit, and they just put out a new YouTube video Wednesday, 90 minutes, breaking things down. The last email I got said that there were 5 insurers that would provide adequate coverage if you didn't want to use the state's program, but now there's 17. If you go to maine.gov /paid leave, and under employer service button, you'll find that list. I don't know if they'll do better than what the state offers. So this quarterly reporting and this kind of stuff, if everybody's signed up in their portals, it must be done quarterly, right? So we'll see it at the end of next month.
So with the paid family medical leave, we have a whole group of employees that we are currently paying the 1% on, not the 0.5%. A lot of those employees get overtime. And since the 0.5% that we're paying that they should be paying is considered taxable income, should that be included in the regular rate of pay towards overtime, or is that excluded?
Do you have a shorter question? No. We've had this in some of my other labor law classes that we've had is if the employer pays that 0.5%, is that now taxable wage?
Yes.
We have, unless there's been a change, we still haven't received guidance on that.
We got an email like 2 weeks ago saying it was.
Because it's payroll.
mandatory. It says you may pay half. It doesn't
Right.
say you must pay half.
So it's kind of like an HSA Section 125 plan where it's you pay it in, but it's not taxable. Cool. All right. Let's go with that.
Okay, so if we don't include it as taxable income, we won't include it in the regular rate of pay.
Well, remember, so the taxable income is on that 1% that's paid in on your quarterly report.
Yeah.
That's not part of wage, right?
Right. But it's
Good.
predictable, right? So it's predictable to the employee that my compensation increases by $4 this week.
You're listing the 1% as part of their compensation, so you're putting that in box.
Just like when in grasping the regular rate of pay of what you can include and what you don't include, one of the things was always, if an employee can predict that they're going to get it, then it's probably something that you should include in the regular rate of pay. So since this is predictable because it's 1% or 0.5% of what I'm earning this week, should that be included? You can say no.
No, well, the full 1% isn't going to look that much more impressive on the loan application. They're not trying to inflate their income based on the 1%. But think of it as like the payroll tax on your UC1 reports that you're sending in there, your contributions that are on the wages. It's similar to that. So you're not taking the employee's portion, the 0.5 that you're now including, you're paying on their behalf, but that's not, just because they're not paying it and you're choosing to pay that contribution on their behalf, that doesn't make that taxable.
Thank you.
Right? It's just like CSSF. Anybody know what CSSF is? Competitive Skills Scholarship Fund? Okay, never mind. It's on that quarterly report that gets filed with the UC1s, which are the wage reports. Now there was UPAth, but I left shortly after that got enacted, so I don't have to worry about that. All right. Again, the video's online. The website is ready. There was public comment last Tuesday. There will be more public comment. I am sure of it. So we'll see how that goes. Severance pay. Okay. A lot of these other items don't apply to your particular industry, unless you're going to have a mass layoff. I'm not really sure. Earned paid leave. Again, on our website, maine.gov, we have frequently asked questions, and it does have specific FAQs for schools and municipalities, so you can access that with your questions, or give us a call again, 623-7900. And these other ones are something that your HR departments should have, which is, not asking for prospective employees' social security number until there's an offer on the table. Everybody's heard of ban the box, right? Although with schools you're probably exempted as well, because you can't have certain people with criminal backgrounds in classrooms, or at least we hope so. No, we don't have that, but not that we do. So non-compete agreements, again, not applicable to you guys really. You don't have people, well, you guys might be fighting each other over employees now. I don't know. but you can't enter. Actually, you guys might be exempted from this too. Where you can't enter into an agreement. You don't hire my people, I won't hire your people, and we'll keep their wages low. I mean, good plan, but it does violate this particular statute. Again, this is the ban the box, but you probably have an exemption. Normally, you have to give them an opportunity to explain their circumstances after a job interview before saying no. You're also not in the industry that I have to deal with a lot of misclassification on. If it's a plumber, they're probably in their own business. If it's somebody sweeping your floors, probably not. So I did a lot of this in UI tax. Wage theft remedies, just pay the employees and we don't have to deal with this. So if you do go bankrupt, are schools exempt from the statute that says the state will pay out the wages to the employees? I don't think so. So I've had employers that don't declare bankruptcy, and then, if they do declare bankruptcy, we pay wages to the employees through an insurance fund that we have with the state. Equal pay, self-explanatory. So same rate for the same job. Sexual harassment. You guys all have a policy, right? I don't have to worry about this one. Everybody's got their training in and all that fun stuff. Have the employee sign something saying they understand English language or anyway, whatever it is. I'm not going to do anything silly. And leave for victims of violence. If they're filing a police report, going to the hospital for something, make sure that they have that time off. I got a case last week over something like this. The person didn't come into work and they fired them. But it was a victims of violence case. It was written in the text message. I have all the information I need, really. So, again, we'll deal with that later with this. Human trafficking. There's some NGOs, I guess, down in the Portland area that will handle some of the human trafficking issues. It has become way more prevalent in this state than I anticipated. So we're doing the best we can with what we've got. I have the coast, so I see it a lot. Not so much people that are overstaying their J1 visas or stuff like that, but just people that are just from away. We have no idea how they got there. They're working there, but they're only getting paid in food and housing, and it's just a tough situation. So if you see it, let us know. We'll alert our counterparts. Again, family medical leave. You guys are all subject, so you already know this stuff. Unless you are one of the people in here that has like one employee, then not so much. Nursing mothers. We had one case in 3 years. Provide a break. The employee was complaining because they were nursing the child at work. With the anyway, follow the statute. Either way, I don't know why I got that case. Employee social media policy. All your HR policies. As someone's boss, you can't ask them to be your Facebook pal. Those kinds of things. You can, but they have the right to refuse you. All right. They don't have to tell you their passwords on their computers. If it's your stuff, don't give them I've had employees that lock out their employer's computer and leave, and it's complicated. So Just make sure that you have access to your stuff. If somebody's administering, working on a computer on your behalf, that you maintain control of it. So, you can't ask them for their private stuff though. And the exemption, of course, is public information. Back when I was part of the UI tax department, a lot of people were, block claim on an employer collecting unemployment, yet they were posting on Facebook how great their job is. Incredible. So, I think that's it. Unless we have other specific questions, I'll let you guys finish this up. We'll get you around 2 o'clock. Question, no question?
So I have a question. If they pass this, no tax on overtime, how are we gonna tax it?
If they pass no
The
tax
federal
on
law, they want the federal tax.
right, like the no tax on tips.
Correct.
Or anything like that.
Correct.
And is that employers that are using the tip credit as a part of making up minimum wage? Because remember, under the tip credit, you only have to
Right.
pay them the $7.08 or whatever it is, and then if there's no tax on those tips, where you get any kind of wage base, regardless. Right. So what's going to be on the W-2? They'll have to put it on a different box. As far as like no tax on overtime, again, that has to be passed first, and when it is, then they should be able to provide you a box on the W-2.
Okay.
And then it'll just not be taxable. So the FAGI on the W-2 will say one thing, and then total compensation, will it exempt it from the Medicare tax part or the FICA tax part? Or we'll see what kind of evil guidance comes out once we deal with any changes in statute. All right? Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. But Josh, you've been awesome.
Thank you, Josh. I hope you all have a good weekend. Remember, April 4th is in Portland. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's at Keeley's in Portland. We will be getting information out on that. Lunch and Learn in March. Please don't forget that. And then if you're not getting Joanne's newsletter every month, please reach out to her and make sure you're getting that. Are there any other questions, comments, or items you want to talk about before we leave? I want to thank all of you. I want to thank our vendors who showed up today and our vendor sponsors, especially Machias Savings Bank, for sponsoring today. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you to our speakers. And I hope you have a safe journey home and good luck with budget season. Take care.